The two remaining members of Aftermath, MBL and Nikov, have been a successful team for the last 3 years. Great 1v1 players in their own right, they complement each other and form a very strong duo. Nikov and MBL have extensive experience in team game tournaments. Nikov was the best player for Team Argentina in the Old Nations Cups, and MBL has been a key player on the Aftermath roster for years. Both are very solid players who master all aspects of the game. In 2v2, they bring their individual strengths to win together as a team. MBL, for instance, can deviate from the meta to make games messy and enable Nikov to get an economy advantage to snowball the game. Nikov, on the other hand, is the strategist for Aftermath. Expect him to be well prepared for maps, drafts, and tactics. Nikov and MBL are the reigning champions of TwoPools, having won the 2019 edition against Tattoo and the Viper. While many other duos have stepped up since, they will remain one of the favourite teams to take the win.
Playing for Tempo Storm, Hera and Leary might currently be the strongest duo in the world. They're the only team with 2 players in the top 4 that dominated the competitive scene over the past 12 months. Leary and Hera are young, they're fast, they're good friends, and since last year's Battle of Africa 2, they train as hard as anyone else. Hera and Leary excel at playing the meta. They choose maps favouring their strengths and opt for proven civilization picks, relying on their superior macro, micro, and team coordination to crush the opposition. While they may lack the ability to deviate from the meta, they are incredibly hard to beat when dictating the pace of the game. Tempo Storm as a team did not participate in the first 2 pools, but Hera played as a third for Aftermath. With MBL and Nikov, he ended up winning the whole tournament. Leary and Hera have also improved a lot, both individually and as a team, over the past year. They are competitive and they want to win. Nothing else than a victory will satisfy them.
With that, let's say hi to Hellis, who will have a bit of a talk about the draft, I believe. So, we'll have Forest Pond, Team Islands, and Natsukotra as the home maps of Aftermath. Tempo will be playing with Coast of Mountain, Kawasan, and Cape of Storms. And please welcome on stage Hellis, who will be the co-caster for the second set.
Hello, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good.
Have you recovered after that crazy series?
Maybe. Maybe I did.
Maybe.
Alright, let's talk about this one. How do
Yep.
you feel about this draft? Just looking at it real quick. Obviously, there's a lot of civs selected here. We have 28 civs picked overall because we need 2 civs for each team for 7 games. We're basically seeing all but 7 of the civilizations, 2 bans and 28 picks over here. Anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, the Indians' second pick is really interesting to me. I'm not quite sure what the thinking behind that is. Do you think they're going to pick that on Coast of Mountain or something to counter Mongol? Like, it's just kind of weird to see Aztecs and Indians first picked, right? So it feels like they're kind of prioritizing. This is Aftermath, of course. Like, to me, Tempo's picks make a little bit more sense. Like, Mongols and Lithuanians, like, perfect for Coast of Mountain, and Lithuanians is perfect for some of the other hybrid maps. But, like, Aztecs and Indians, they're not really your common first picks, you know?
Exactly. Aztecs, something that could be very good on Natsukotra. Overall, Forest Pond, Team Islands being the other home maps of AM. And speaking of Team Islands, this is one of those interesting sets where Nikov and MBL are not specifically Team Islands players, especially MBL, but on land maps, especially open land maps, Tempo should have the upper hand with Hera and Leary, so they're kind of forced to go for maps where, you know, they could actually surprise their opponent with a landing and then a stronger voter play from potentially Nikov.
Yeah, I think Nikov is very solid on islands and hybrid maps and all that type of map style. But I think, yeah, MBL probably not, you know, most well known for that. But I'm sure he can play it to a reasonable standard. I think it all comes down to preparation, right? Like what strats, like what, you know, maybe specific strats with civs. Like who knows? Like I will say about Aftermath's draft is that it's kind of odd, but it kind of makes sense, right? Like it's kind of just weird to see Chinese last picked and Aztecs and Indians first picked, but that can be fine, like especially if they are coming in with these really prepared strategies. Like they've picked not Socotra, so I guess they're trying to do some clarity with Aztecs. Maybe they watch some of Modri's games. Yeah, I definitely say that to me it looks like Tempo's draft is a little bit more standard. I do have one question for you though, leader. What civ do you think Tempo is going to pick on Team Islands if it ever gets there? Because they've got kind of a mix of options.
I feel... Oh, this is hard because there's so many maps. I would think Portuguese is your go-to civ. And from second pool, honestly, it's the whatever is left for there. So you have that flexibility to mess around with your pool to civilizations for most of the maps because you're most likely going to see a landing. Like, this is what we have seen from Hera and Leary. Hera landing and then Leary going for basically a galley micro type of a play. So I would assume that we will see Portuguese plus a plug-and-play civ depending on what they have for other maps in their mind.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I am worried about Coast to Mountain though for Aftermath. It feels like they gave them Celts second, so we're gonna probably see something along the lines of like Mongols Celts on if we get to, or we probably will get to Coast to Mountain at some point. So yeah, I don't know. It's yet to be seen how well their civs will actually play out on the maps. I just think, yeah, this kind of unusual draft style, it might work, might not. It really depends. Okay.
So we have game number 1 up. We're going to Arabia, of course. Franks and Vietnamese versus Bulgarians, Chinese. So both teams finding some reasonable civs for this one, but I'm tempted to say that Tempo has the better civilizations with Franks and Vietnamese.
Yeah, maybe very slightly. I think it's quite even, honestly, because Chinese are so good. Their eco is amazing. I think when we get to Imp, then yeah, then Tempo will have much better civs. But I think up until that point, I think it should be quite even, maybe like 55-45 in favor of Tempo. But yeah, I don't think that those civs will necessarily equate to like, you know, a huge disadvantage.
Indeed. Chinese always have that flexibility of being both a good cavalry civ and an archer civ. I'm actually surprised that AM was able to steal Chinese as their last civ pick because the versatility of the Chinese is actually extremely good.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Setting.
Yeah, this is what I mean about the kind of unusual draft, right? Like, it's very rare for the Aztecs and Indians to be first, and then you see Chinese not picked by either team until the very end. And Chinese are just such a good civ. Like, it's kind of a little bit rare to see that. But again, like, when we look at the draft, it actually makes sense that the Chinese aren't picked first, right? They're focusing on all these kind of very specific maps where you need the Italians, well, I guess the Aztecs, the Persians, you know, these hybrid maps, the forest pond, like arena style maps, right? So I guess it does kind of make sense.
So, with the countdown going down, we're going into Arabia. Before we get into the series, what's your prediction in terms of final score?
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. My prediction of final score, I think it's probably going to be something like 4-2 for Tempo. And chat is pointing out that it's mirrored, so yeah, you guys are right. So Chinese was first picked, I think. Which makes a lot more sense. Okay.
So we're going into game number 1 here. I actually forgot to set this up. So Aftermath versus Tempo Storm, sort of brother versus brother matchup because Hera and Leary are up against their former teammates MBL and Nikov. MBL and Nikov won TwoPools, one in 2019. At that time, Hera was a backup player behind MBL and Nikov and barely played. And now we will see if MBL and Nikov can once again get to the finals, or this time Tempo will prove stronger. I sort of agree with your 4-2 prediction. Tempo is just a very, very lethal combination of execution from Leary and Hera, and that is going to be extremely hard to overcome for MBL and Nikov.
Yeah. I think the game that showed that best was I think they had a game against Suomi in the group stage, and I just felt like Suomi was so far ahead. They were cruising, and then Leary just pulls out some ridiculous micro and and he kind of clutches the game. They just have insane kind of like just core mechanics, like really good team synergy. So they're definitely very strong players. But yeah, I'm hoping that the MBL and Nikov, obviously they've got a lot of history as well. They won the last 2 pools, did you say, or they at least beat this team, right? So they also have a lot of history.
Exactly. So we're going to have MBL and Nikov on the left side in yellow Bulgarians for Nikov, and MBL is going to be playing red Chinese. Leary will be playing the Vietnamese with green, and Hero will be playing Franks as blue. That's the usual setup of the Tempo team, with the cavalry player being Hera, and on the north, Leary being the archer player. That's basically the setup that they go almost exclusively in all of their games.
Yep, makes sense. I mean, just looking at maps here, I mean, there's not any map that really kind of strikes me as being really bad. I guess Leary is looking quite exposed with his gold at the front, and Heroes is looking quite good. Actually, if you look at both MBL and Nico's map, it looks like they both have pretty secure maps, except for MBL's berries. I wonder if that will actually factor into the game at all.
Exactly. Like, MBL's base is very much open from the north, although I think everybody who has been watching competitive Age of Empires for some time probably understands that MBL can wall any map. You can give him nothing, and he can still wall that map as well. So I feel like if there's any person that has no trouble walling 100 tiles across the map, then that's going to be MBL.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. Yeah, that is one of his strengths. I remember in KOTD, him, even though the map was super open, I remember him telling like everyone, I found a way to wall it, you know. So it's very much like him to be able to wall this. I mean, I think in team games, MBL kind of goes for those like kind of circular walls quite a bit. Like he just kind of goes, you know, not necessarily huge walls, but you know, walls that kind of protect you enough, especially in the early game. So it'll be interesting to see how much he walls. That's for sure.
It is worth pointing out that Nikov is trying to play this one as safe as possible. He walled in his wheels on the wood line because he knows that Hera and Leary might just team up their scouts and try to jump on one of those wheels to pick them off. And as I said, Nikov just wants to make sure they give as little freedom for Hera and Leary to grab an advantage as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that's kind of strike me this game already is I don't know what you think, but both teams seem to be going quite greedy in terms of like deer luring. Like even Leary's luring deer. Like I guess Nikov has to because he's a scout player. I think only MBL isn't. Do you think that's common at this level, like especially in these 2v2s, or do you think they're just confident with their scouting?
I would say that it's fairly common nowadays because the damage that you can do with your scout early on is very, very limited. You can get some information, but the benefit of being able to push in 2, 3, 4 deer is probably greater than that. It allows you to go for example, a 19 pop feudal for Hera, and Leary is also going at 21 pop archer, so both of those will have a faster than ordinary feudal age here.
Yeah, I mean, but MBL is going for this rush, so we'll see if that pays off. It looks like MBL is going to send this rush straight to Leary, which is interesting. What are your thoughts about that? It's quite a long walk.
It is a long walk, but it could actually catch Leary by surprise, because if there is a rushing player, you would expect that rush to hit Hera, because he's closer to MBL. And this is the reason why Leary could get surprised about that. On the other hand, I feel like the rush hitting the scouts player might be better, because you can directly trade HP with the scouts, whereas if Leary gets to just 1 or 2 archers, he can clean it up very, very easily. Still, that wood line for Leary could be very exposed for that rush.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do like though is that both players are obviously like they're synergizing really well. Both scouts are here, like they know what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get some damage onto Leary. But one thing I really don't like is if you look at MBL's eco, he's 25 pop and he's not clicked up. Chinese are really not the best civ for this kind of barracks play, just for that reason. Like as we were saying, like obviously Leary's already like 70-80% up. So I mean, MBL would just become like quite far behind in uptime, and he's got no walls, so I think it'd be quite tricky to go for a fast castle behind this.
We have a wheel picked off from Leary here, nice start for that rush, and we were indeed right about the fact that Leary was surprised about this one. He didn't expect the rush to hit him. MBL also milled his huntables at the back, and honestly, the wheel count is still climbing up for him. This would be very, very ballsy Drush FC without any kind of walls here.
Yeah, it's just if he gets raided by the scouts, right, he has absolutely nothing that he can do. That's the only reason that it's a little bit risky. And also, like, again, if you have this synergy... Okay, it's clicked up now, so I think he's just going to play Feudal Age normally. Yep. It's just, again, with Chinese, it's a little bit hard to click up.
Exactly. He added 4 farms, but with Chinese, that's not really a big deal because you get the extra food on those, so lacking the farming upgrade isn't that big of a deal. But Hera is already there with the scouts, and there is no barracks for spearmen, so this rush into archers from MBL could be troublesome when it comes to defending as those scouts.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you think. I'm not sure if I really not sure if the rush justified being built. Honestly, I mean they killed one villager, which was really nice. But again, it's just you're just leaving yourself so exposed at home. Like this is going to be a lot of micro. Like he's got to idle all of his berries. I'm just not really sure this was the right play, really.
Yeah, Leary is also getting delayed though, and now Nikov is arriving with the scouts. So I kind of feel like both archer players are getting heavily delayed. Nice quick walls from MBL to prevent the scouts from running past. But honestly, I feel like Leary is getting delayed more than MBL does.
Yeah, that's true. It just you're right. I think MBL has actually done an amazing job of actually defending here. Actually, I think we need to give MBL props because I felt like if that was maybe a lesser player, like maybe like someone like me in his position there, like I would probably lose a vill or two to those scouts. But he has like nearly perfect quick walls and he takes like he's only got idle berries, so like I think honestly that's just down to MBL being like very strong.
Leary has a hole close to his houses on the left side, although his base is still open from multiple directions, so that doesn't matter that much. But he's facing a lot of pressure, as it looks like Hera will try to hit Nikov's back here with the 3 scouts that he diverts from MBL's place.
Yeah, do you think, one question I do want to ask, do you think we'll see an early blacksmith from Bulgarians and some early upgrades?
It's possible. Because I feel like if you are MBL Nikov, you might want to play aggressive here and don't drag out this game for long. We got some archers and Nikov has a hole. Nikov has actually 2 holes because even that Policide doesn't save him. And that's a disaster. That's a disaster for Nikov. He was trying this one as safe as possible. He's got some scouts here, but Hero scouts are also coming in. And okay, now the walls are up.
It's still not closed, yeah.
So like the biggest problem or crisis was averted, but look at Leary. He's just blocking the foundations of the walls with the archers, and now Hera is in.
Oh, yeah, that's a complete disaster.
That is a disaster indeed. Nikov only lost 1 vill though, so I feel like this might not have been as bad as it initially looked like. Like obviously it's a lot of idle time, but in exchange they will clean up some archers and they will clean up Hera scouts. Obviously it wasn't ideal, but this could have been way worse.
Yeah, I think we just have to give Nico props. He kept his head very calm. He didn't panic. At least it looks like he didn't panic, and he just fought the army. He only lost 1 vill. I mean, 1 vill is it's bad, but it's nothing you can't recover from, right? So again, I think both teams right now, like despite that hole, they're really showing that they're playing to quite a high level. There's just so much going on like all over the map. Like everyone's using their units like really efficiently, and also fair play to Nico for holding that so well.
The rush is still alive, and they might actually find a vill or so at Hera's base. And more important, there's an archer supporting, and just as much as Nico was suffering from that early pressure, Hera could still be in trouble, because it's only 1 archer, but there's a rush, and you already force a defensive tower, which is value here at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is just... It's so nice, like, it's so nice how MBL is, like, using these units, right? Like, this Drush, like... I mean, I know I was criticizing it, but I actually think it's got value right now, right? Like, he didn't take any damage with it, and he's still using it now to do lots of damage. He's even killing a villager, He
does.
It's crazy value, right?
He forced idle time, he forced defense. Hera runs into the spearman of Nikov here, and if you take a look at Castle Age resources, all seem even for the time being, but when more archers come towards Hera's base, Hera could be in trouble, and he might lose another vill here.
Yeah, I mean, again, like building a tower as well, you shouldn't understate how big of an issue that is, right? Like, it just means that Nikov can build TCs when Hero can't really. Like, he has to go on stone, which is like, a lot of economy, and like he's already losing villagers, so he's already bleeding economy to his opponents, right? So I think Aftermath have done a really good job in this game to at least get themselves maybe a very slight lead. I mean, it will have to depend on also MBO's like ability to mass archers as well, because Leary was up first, so he should have a little bit of a lead. Yeah, we see Hero somehow clicking up despite all that pressure, being the first one up. Yeah, whose position do you play, leader?
Yeah, this is definitely interesting from multiple perspectives, because MBO's Drush did quite a lot of damage. He killed 3 vills, Nikov lost 1, but that still is technically a net of 2 villagers lead for AM. Plus, you also have to consider that MBL is Chinese, so there's some extra vills from that as well. On the other hand, is this lead enough for them? Lear is going to be the latest to Castle Age, but Hera is the first, and the early knights could do a lot of damage, or just run past the TC with the scouts. Nice reaction from MBL. And now Leary is gonna get pushed here by his archers, although he has some at home to defend.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think this game is very finely balanced right now, right? It's going to take... We're going to have to see what happens in this early cast stage period to really decide who's going to be winning. I think the one thing I will say is that if you look at Nikov's map, it is just extremely exposed. Like, if they lose any sort of momentum, like, I think he just dies. I just can't... Every woodline can get ranged, even his gold can get ranged. Like, it's hard to figure out where you can even build town centers. So, like, yeah, they really need to keep this pressure on. Otherwise, Nikov's going to be in big trouble. Whereas I don't really see the same on the inverse side, other than maybe with Leary's map, but it's a little bit more well defended. One thing I do like, though, is the third range play from MBL here. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that they want to play this one very aggressive, which makes some sense, because I think when it comes to, evaluating who's gonna have the upper hand in certain parts of the game, Tempo is probably the strongest in early game, with the use of the few scouts that they have, the way that they take fights and grab advantage. But if we go to like a very late game scenario with post-imp, MBL and Nikov are just as good. So I feel like adding the third range gives them an ability to make sure they don't die in Castle Age. Although they have to still be careful, about booming. And it looks like Hera is just going to buy stone for himself. So despite having that tower up, he's still able to add 2 additional TCs.
Wow, okay, that's one way to deal with it. Still a little bit annoying to have to buy the stone. You have to buy 200, obviously, so definitely decent damage. But if we look at Nikov, I think he's only building 1 TC. I'm not too sure, actually. Let me go on his POV.
Nikov is a little too low on wood. He's only having 100 wood in the bank, so that's going to be only 1 TC for him. He is going for double stable knights for the time being, and he is going to have +1/+2 on those knights, as opposed to Hera only having +2 defense. Mbia moves out with his crossbows, and he could intercept a couple of knights from Hera.
This is a really key moment in the game. Like, if Aftermath don't deal with this threat to Nikov, which they really should be, which is obviously his gold and his wood, then this could... Oh, okay, this is a brilliant play from MBL. So MBL showed his units, and now instead of Tempo just attacking Nikov, where they could have just probably ended the game because his map is so bad, like now Leary's chasing MBL. And this is exactly what you want in a 2v2. You do not want to be the one chasing, you want to be the one... making things happen. Because if you're reacting, you're just going to be kind of taking the damage, you're going to kind of be like, always on the back foot, right? So really nice play from MBL here.
Hera is going to have an eco lead compared to Nikov, although Nikov is a big boomer, so it is absolutely possible that he will be able to catch up because he will add the third TC soon. A bigger deal could be, as we have some of Nikov's knights intercepted here by Leary's crossbows, is that MBL is adding a second TC, whereas Leary isn't, and Hera's gold mine here on the north is still quite exposed to crossbows, so that could be a little bit troublesome to defend.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so yeah, Nikov is now building that third TC. Good to see. Yeah, I do see what you mean. I think Hera's base is really well defended except for that gold, right? I think that's the only thing that's exposed. He's done a great job with his town center placement, so it's really hard for them to actually get any damage. Yeah, it's interesting that Leary is only playing 1 TC here. Do you think we're just going to see 1 TC into imp from Leary and just lots of like really high health archers?
It's possible, especially if they are not pushing Hera actively. A couple of knights from Nico run into Hera's eco and pick off a vill on a farm. Hera snipes in the chat, as Hera would say.
Yeah, this is a really important raid actually to catch up in economy, right? Like, I think... So Hera's got like a 6 vill lead over Nico right now, which isn't... It's not make or break, right? I guess still fairly even.
I think it's more about the diversion, that Hera is forced to keep all his knights back at home. And look at Lear's base now. Knights coming in from Nikov and crossbows from MBL. MBL picked off 2 vills on the wood line. And the gold mine for Lear is very much exposed here.
Yeah, you're actually right. It was just kind of... That was actually a really nice play from both of them. Like you said, they were just using those knights as kind of a diversion. And they come in and do a load of damage. And like, I know I was saying about Nico's map, but Leary's map is also not great either. But that is a lot of crossbows.
Indeed, 27 crossbows with the extra HP and +1 defense. Other side, there's also +1 defense for MBL. But honestly, if MBL would find that wood line, he would also be happy. And look at that, he picks off another vill before leaving. That's still decent value for him, and he can still harass that wood line.
Yep.
The Drush finally gets cleaned up at minute 27. Better late than never. And MBL's at 36 crossbows, more importantly, is pushing Hera, although he's unable to hit any critical resource from Hera. Still, it's going to be 3 ATCs for both AM players, whereas for Tempo, it is only going to be 2 for Leary, although in exchange, MBL could lose his crossbows here to the Knights of Hera.
Yeah, I just want to point out that MBL has played this game extremely well. I mean, he's already up, like, 12 villagers on Leary, and he's got more army, despite going through ranges. It's like, this game has, like, almost been an MBL masterclass. Like, he's completely outplayed Leary on the other side. Like, to still have more army and more eco is crazy good. I think, honestly, we're seeing, like, really good synergy between the Aftermath guys, but obviously, it's still very close right now.
We have the crossbows of MBL getting cleaned up on the north, but that's once again a diversion, and Nikov will run into the base of Hera. The bigger problem is that MBL has been slowly losing small groups of crossbows, whereas Lear was able to keep his army high, and it is now 30 crossbows knocking on the doors of Nikov.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, MBO has a huge army of another 30 crossbows coming to the base, and in the meantime, Nikov is being very aggressive. But the question is, if you are Aftermath right now, how do you deal with this like kind of forward siege push, right? That's kind of tricky, right?
I would say you could actually make a case for Nikov sending his knights towards the base of Leary, because that would distract Leary for a moment, and, you know, give a little bit more chance to get some more knights out at Nikov's base. Nikov is adding 2 more stables, so he's going to go up to 4. In this one, Hera's slight eco lead over him. Overall, the ecos are still very close, and it looks like Nikov dives into Hera's base, so that eco lead is going to be gone in a moment.
Yeah, there's so much going on right now. This is such a high-level game. I mean, we have Nikov fighting under Hero's TCs. We've got, like, MBL running to save his teammate, and then we've got Nikov dealing with, you know, a ram push and, you know, 40 crossbows in his base. This is a lot going on right now.
Nikov rushing up a siege workshop here for a Mangonel, but that might be a little too late. On the other hand, the Rams are a big investment here, so if this push doesn't work out well for Tempo, they will have some trouble in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think it looks like, I mean, I don't think Nikov should lose that TC, I would say that much. Although those crossbows on the hill are really scary.
Indeed. +2 defense, Vietnamese extra HP. Nice hold from MBL, though he also has +2 defense. And behind this one, Nikov is doing a lot of damage to Hera's eco. Now AM's cures a 10 villagers lead, and also a lot of idle time on Hera's eco, which is probably the bigger factor right now.
And yeah, I think the important thing here is that MBL has already clicked up to Imp. And let's have a look at Leary. Yeah, Leary is nowhere near. So there's going to be a huge timing in the next like 2 to 3 minutes, like when MBL is up, for Aftermath to kind of get some really critical damage in. Do you think Tempo will have an idea that MBL is clicked up, or are going to be completely blindsided by this?
I think they know. Because those crossbows heading towards MBL could be a clue, but this is important. MBL saw the crossbows with his own, and Leary for a moment turned back. Maybe he was thinking, hey, they know we're coming, so we might as well just return home. I think MBL's base is very well defendable against crossbows, though. And in exchange, Leary is going to lose that forward workshop, and that's a big investment that goes down the drain this way.
Yeah, it didn't really achieve that much, did it? I mean, I guess it could have done. But yeah, those 2 rams just got picked off. He put some nice pressure on Nikov. But I mean, Nikov has played exceptionally well because he was putting so much pressure on Hera. That he kind of managed to like reduce that economic deficit to Hera a little bit. That being said, though, Hera is also close to clicking Imp himself. So we could have this kind of weird position where like the Archer player is up, and then the Cav player for Tempo is up. You know. I don't know, which one would you prefer? Do you prefer having the Arch player?
Cav.
Yeah, okay.
Because you have mobility, you have, like, in terms of your units are worth more in Imperial when it comes to, like, a Cavalier compared to a Knight, as opposed to an Arc versus Crossbow, although Lear is in big trouble here, because even if Hera is an Imperial, his teammate could die to this push here. He lost his gold access, and I feel like the push here from Tempo isn't doing that much on MBL's base right now.
Yeah, and you have to think, again, what's going to happen in the next few minutes? Like, they won't be able to push at all because MBL can just get Bracer, Chemistry, Arbalaster, and then they're just stuck, right? They can't do that much damage to MBL. Whereas MBL can obviously send those Arbs maybe to Hero. Yeah, do you think they're just going to bust out here and go straight to Hero's economy?
They have to, and Hero's going to return home with his knights. Leary also clicked up, which spices things up here, although He still has 50 crossbows, so this is a tight window for Aftermath here, because Nikov is still far away from Imperial. Leary could suffer from a lot of damage, but if he's able to survive, he's gonna have a big blob of nasty orbs with the extra HP for Vietnamese.
Yeah, you're right. Leary has done a great job of keeping the arch number alive, right? Like, even though his eco has been completely ransacked, like, he still has a really scary number of orbs to still make a really big difference in the game, right? The question is, can they hit this timing on... The timing is right now for Aftermath, I think. Like, they have to crush this timing. Oh, that's going to be a big fight. MBL's not paying attention.
Yeah, that's a disaster for MBL. He's getting his orbs sandwiched in between knights, and even the orbs Bracer should technically clap knights, not if you get a good surround. And that hurts so much for MBL, just as much as the crossbows of Hilary breaking into Nikov's base, and we shouldn't overlook the fact that Bulgarians won't have Paladin, which means that Franks will have a massive advantage once we go into post-imp.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And also, even if Vietnamese get the Rattans as well, then Chinese are in pretty big trouble. Yeah, honestly, I think that might have been the turning point in the game, you know? Like, that fight there was... You know, MBO just kind of AFKing with his orbs is so huge, like, because now obviously, like you say, Nikov isn't going imp, right? And Frank getting imp, maybe it's chivalry and paladin, is huge, right? There's nothing that the MBO can do alone against that, really.
In exchange, Leary takes a questionable fight here. He had the heal, and he had +2 defense, but he was up against a lot of orbs that had +4 defense, and Leary lost most of his crossbows, so yeah, he's gonna be an imp, but he has no army. And if it's only like a one-dimensional army from Hera with cavalry, then Halberdiers could be a thing from MBL, and indeed he's stacking in there.
Yeah, that's okay. Really smart from MB to go for Halbs. I just don't know. Like, maybe is that gonna be enough? Because I feel like Hero could still just reroute his cavaliers and go straight to Nikov's base and kind of wipe him up completely, and then you're kind of in a 1v1. But maybe he'll lose his base in the meantime. I'm not really sure. This game is so finely balanced, like I said.
Exactly. I feel like the key thing here for Nikov is to keep spamming knights into Hera's eco and just try to make sure Hera doesn't move out of his base, and Tempo's eco is way weaker than Aftermath's, so if they just keep applying pressure, like, yeah, MBL's losing those orbs, but look at that. Hera is down to 89 views, and Lear is also not really thriving in terms of economy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Leary... Okay, he could afford Bracer, yeah. I think Nikov has done an amazing job of raiding Hera. Like, Hera will not have the food, or shouldn't have the food for Paladin. Yeah, he doesn't. Okay, I actually think... Yeah, no, after those raids, I actually think Aftermath are really far ahead. Because the one thing I was really worried about is Hera getting to, like, you know, 120 bills and Paladin quite quickly. But, I mean, if you look at his economy, it's completely dire at the moment. 80 bills, you know, he's nowhere near Paladin. Like, if Nikov himself is almost up to Imp as well. And, like, this Paladin Vietnamese timing, like, is only really strong, like, when you get all the upgrades and all the techs, and, like, obviously they're not that close to it right now.
Now, Lear is gonna have quite a lot of orbs coming in here, as Nikov tries a Mangonel delete trick on them, and those orbs will just eat the knights until Nikov grabs the upgrades. Luckily, Bulgarians help quite a bit with that, so 80% faster working Blacksmith will come in clutch here for Nikov to get that +4 defense in fast.
Yep, and he's got about, what, 8 stables to produce nice from as well, so he's got 130 bills. Like, it just feels like economically, Aftermath is so far ahead that, you know, Tempo are gonna have to start really, you know, holding soon, or at least doing some counter damage, because otherwise that economically is just gonna snowball, right?
Exactly. MBA is going to lose another group of orbs though, and MBA's art numbers are not necessarily impressive compared to Leary, but as we said, that very fast Blade Barding, probably even Blast Furnace will come in fast, and Nikov made a castle, so Stirup's Cavalier could be something that comes in here faster for him than Paladin will for Hera.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I don't know if he's actually researched it, actually. I haven't checked that. Yeah, Stirrups, again, Stirrups will actually be... I guess they'll be better than Frank Cavalier, with only the 4 extra HP. So yes, that's also a really nice timing for Bulgarians, right? Like with this eco, huge eco, like getting Stirrups as well is really nice. The question is, if you are Aftermath, how do you finish this game? Because you're in the lead, you've got the position. Like, how do you close this out?
I think you gotta start pushing up with orbs against Hera's base, because Hera is going to be forced to fight here to help out Leary on the north against the cavalry. I love how Hera sent 2 of his weak scouts to the corner to just try and deny the markets. And now Cavalier is in for Nikov. He's at 22, Hera's at 25. No Stirrups for a yellow player yet, though.
Okay, I just want to point out, what is that market, by the way? it's not even close to the edge of the map.
Yeah, that's
It's so
a
good.
0 out of 10 market. We have a big fight coming in here in the middle. Vietnamese extra HP
Huge
helps a
fight,
lot,
yeah.
and I feel like the army of MBL might be a little bit caught
Yeah,
off guard. And Nikov doesn't really have the beef here. It's quite a lot of light cav in that army instead of cavalier, but I think they might still have the chance to clean this one up.
Yeah, I think MBL again just misplayed with his army. Like, there's no need to do that. You're so far ahead. Again, it's gonna be difficult for Nikov to clear up all these orbs, especially with these. Oh, are they gonna be able to do it?
I think he's got enough Cavalier to do it, although there is reinforcements from Hera. MBL is gonna have to do a big push though on Hera's base, because it looks like they're losing the left side despite the fact that they have a massive eco lead. I think Nikov is having some gold control issues, because the addition of Light Cav kind of makes it seem like indeed he's having trouble getting gold. And that is a massive trouble, because Hera clicks Paladin.
Yep.
And
That's yep.
this is exactly how Tempo could just snowball the game despite being 80 vills behind.
I think honestly, I think MBL up until like the 35-minute mark played this game absolutely amazingly. Like not a single mistake almost. But like again, him just kind of AFKing the army on that hill and just getting surrounded was such a huge mistake, because it's now putting Nikov under so much pressure. Right? He's just got all these units in his economy. He can't really fight them because he doesn't get Paladin. So he's got to wait for his teammates to come, and again, you're just kind of losing the momentum, right? Like we were saying, like if this does get like kind of quite far into the late game, then Frank Vietnamese is super strong. Like,
Yeah.
Frank in general is just kind of a monster late game in maps like this.
Frank's
yeah.
Vietnamese, honestly, would be a matchup or safe combo that you could even see on any hidden free pick tournament as well. Now, Lear is going to lose a lot of those orbs, because the light cav are good at soaking up arrow fire, and Hera's base is also going to get pushed by Trebs. So this is not over just yet. Orb numbers are still very close for both sides. Hera's got Paladin in though, and Lear is pushing Nikov's base on the right side with more orbs.
Yeah. I think the key thing is Leary is showing that you don't really need economy as much when you are an archer flank, right? He's putting on tremendous pressure, despite taking all that economic damage. He's almost putting pressure equivalent or more than MBO is on Hera, and I think with these paladins, I think Hera could clean up MBL now completely. I think this is probably where we'll see the games start to swing in favor of Tempo.
Exactly, that's 29 Paladins. MBL knows exactly he needs to run back. He tried to go for Bombard Towers, but they don't really have an answer to Paladins now, and Nico was at 21 light cap, so gold control is a big issue. He now is able to find some extra gold mines, but I feel like the momentum is shifting in the hands of Tempo, who are already establishing trade. AM having a bit of a rough time setting up the trade. It's a bit messy, like trap trade cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, Nico managed to fix those markets, so that's always a plus. But yeah, I think again it was just that follow-up, right? We were talking about they had to find a way to finish the game, and I think again just being sloppy with those orbs like MBR was really cost them. Like now Hera had plenty of time to reboom, get back into the game. I think in general, like I feel like MBR was a little bit slow to kind of capitalize on Hera. I don't know what you think. I guess he had to kind of try and save his teammate from the Arbalesters. But I think at this point it's looking really rough.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about 40 Paladins versus 24 Hussars from the cavalry players. And I think one thing that come in clutch is Leary, under so much pressure, still able to click into Imperial and get orbs, which was a massive clutch. And now MBL's eco is falling apart. And this seems to stall this spiral out of control, because Hera will just keep flooding Paladin with Chivalry, and I don't think MBL will survive the next wave. He's down to 90 vills.
Yeah, I think this is exactly where you don't want to see Franks at in the game if you don't have Paladin yourself. Just this is the power, right? They can just completely steamroll your economy. They're just so strong. I think we'll probably see some Paladins also go over to Nico as well, and MBL's losing that fight. He's too busy at home. So I think, MBL on 80 villagers, this is looking really rough.
Yeah, this feels extremely bad. Like, MBL is less than 100 population right now, and while Nikov still has the vill count, he doesn't have the army. He's at 12 Hussar, and the timing was very good on Hera and Lear. Like, they hit Nikov just in time to make sure that MBL isn't able to push Hera. Instead, he's forced to defend his teammate.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, where did this game go wrong, really? Do you think for Tempo? Because it felt like they had the momentum for the entire mid game. Like it felt like they were at one point. I think they both had 130 villagers against like 80. Like, how have they gotten to the position where they're massively behind? You know?
I think
Um,
lack of gold. Like that's a big deal for Nikov wasn't able to keep up with the Cavalier production as compared to Hera because some of his golds were denied. And also, I think Leary and Hera were able to do a lot more damage with the push on Nikov's base than what MBL and Nikov were able to do on Leary's base. Like, they were inside Leary's base, but they barely were able to kill any vills.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. You're right. I think one thing that really impressed me was Leary's ability to put all that pressure on despite having such a dreadful game up until that point. Like not necessarily down to his own play, just because they lost some of the momentum and he kind of like got raided massively. But even despite that, he had like 60 arbs just like, you know, pressuring Nico's economy, and it just made it so difficult for them to, you know, kind of wipe that first massive arbs and then, you know, kind of snowball the game, right?
Now, here's the deal. Hera is also running out of gold, and he's only on 6 trade cards. He's still at 29 paladins, which is nice, but he's slowly losing it to Nikov's Cavalier, and Nikov found a gold mine to mine. So technically, this would be the moment where Nikov can access Cavalier, and Hera will be forced to go for what basically is awful Frankish light cavalry against a bombard tower push from MBL, and this time if it's light cav versus light cav, the Stirrups Hussars will just absolutely annihilate the Frankish light cav, and MB is a big survivor. He needs to reboom like crazy at 70 vills, but I feel like AM could stabilize here, especially if they get those light cav into the back of Lyra's base.
I think the problem here nowadays, do you see that group of like 21 paladins? Like, how does Nikov deal with that? You know, like that's I just can't see like you have to build like 60 hussars. You know, I just don't think he can afford to do that right now.
Yeah, that's the massive concern. Like, as long as that paladin blob is alive, tempo should be ahead. But guess what? Nico and MBL are trying to deny the trade here, getting stables out in the corner, and if you can clean up those paladins, and MBL has halberdiers, so he could slowly grind down those paladin numbers, then Hera won't be able to replenish them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess it's not over. I mean, MBO's doing a good job of rebooming as well. Because you're right, they are taking this trade, they're taking control of it, right? Especially with MBO's ops, they won't actually be able to trade. And then I guess if you're at a point with no gold, I guess honestly, yeah, it's probably quite even between the two teams, right? Like, I mean, the one thing that Nico has going from is the stirrups on the Hussar, which is really strong. Yeah, do you think it's going to be enough damage from Aftermath to keep themselves in this game?
I have some doubts. Like, the problem is that Hera once again comes in with a light cap to push MBL. MBL is doing an excellent job rebooming here, and Hera is slowly losing his paladin numbers. He's down to 20. But still, there is a much greater eco for tempo, so they can afford to flood light cavalry a lot easier than Aftermath will. Still, now orbs are here for MBL, and that means that tempo is going to have very, very little trade going for them. And the hubs eventually will clean up those paladins.
Yeah, that's a good point. So they managed to survive that raid, which I'm surprised about. And MBL is slowly creeping up in villager count. But again, it still feels rough, right? Because even if they stabilize here, they're still playing against worse servers in the late game. But I guess if they can keep this like foothold in the trade, which it doesn't look like they will be able to, because those Trebs are kind of gonna take down that castle, and at which point they will be able to resume trade.
Exactly. I feel like here the deal for Nikov is just delaying trade as much as possible until they are able to set up their own. They are cleaning up the remaining paladins from Hera, so Hera is officially down to just 8. And I think it's about the window that you need to set up trade for AM and delay the opponent's trade, so you can start getting the Cavaliers in once again before Hera gets access to paladins again. This is an interesting matchup in post-team because Hera is one of those players that has a very, very good skill set at closing out games with the light cav raids, but MBL is one of those players that is just refusing to give up, and he can just come back from insane scenarios, and I feel like the momentum is going away from tempo, military numbers-wise as well.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit, but again, I still think you have to think about the kind of the timing windows of the civs. Like, will Aftermath really be able to capitalize now? Like, I mean, I know that they're kind of stabilized a little bit, like again, they have to win the game here. Like again, if both teams start trading, then they're still losing, right?
Exactly.
So like, I just don't see where the crushing blow is going to come from.
And right now, Heras and Leary will have just as good trade as MBL and Nikov, and this is exactly what they need. Hubs on the left side from MBL, because Leary is full hub and Hera is light cap, so the Hussars from Nikov won't do much. In fact, I would say that you could send those Hussar towards the base of Hera, because he's got a lot of wide open farming eco for raiding.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Probably a good idea for both players from both teams. So like, so we see MB actually building some barracks by Nikov. But yeah, I was suggesting maybe MBL, if he has trade, to build some archery ranges just to support against the Haubs, because I don't think Nikov can really deal with Haubs on his own.
Absolutely not, unless he adds barracks. Nikov even tries to stone gate the trade for tempo just to slow it down as much as possible. As MBL is now pushing the right side of Hera's base, Hera coming in with stone walls, MBL adding petards on, I think, the southern part of the map to blast through those walls.
Wow, that's super interesting. I guess that's not a misclick.
There's 3 petards. I don't think it's a misclick. It would be a interesting misclick. MBL's inside Hera's base with hubs, and Hera only has light cap, so cleaning up hub raids when you only have light cap is troublesome.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. Also, look at these bomber towers from MBL. They're kind of trying to push into Leary's economy right now. So this game, you're right, it definitely isn't over. It's a question of like I said, just a question of how do you win this?
Yeah.
Honestly, I know you were talking about Bulgarians, but and the two-handed swordsman, but that could actually be a really good play on this side. Like, what could they really do? I guess they have arbalesters in low numbers. Like, you know, kind of two-handed swordsman with Bagains could just destroy that composition on the left-hand side right now.
It definitely could. And there is the petards in the middle. MBL blasts through the fortified walls to let Nikov's Hussar into the base of Leary. That's where the petards were needed for.
Yep, and that's really smart. Really, really smart using those petards. And is Nikov just going to raid here, though? There's a lot of units already ready to deal with that.
I think if you are Nikov, you send your light cav into the base of Hera. Because Leary is going to have an easy time cleaning it up with hubs. Hera will struggle against Syrup Hussars with only just Frankish light cav, and you want to cripple Hera's fluid income to delay the paladins as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. You're right, because if you actually think about earlier in the game, like, all Nikov was doing was spamming knights into Hero's economy, but like now that it's gone to the late game, he's just kind of forgotten that Heroes existed. I feel like if you look at Hero's economy as well, like you said, he's got no Haubs. Like, he doesn't really have the kind of counterplay to just mass Hussar raids, right? Like, he's only got kind of pretty bad light cap. This game is so close. I mean, I know we were saying that the tempo should be closing this out. It's still looking like Aftermath have the momentum. I don't know what you think about that.
And look at Nikov's trade card numbers. He's at 41 trade cards. Hera is still at 26. So we're getting to the domain where I think Nikov will soon start adding Cavaliers once again. And they are the only team that is pushing the opponent's eco. Like, Hera is doing some small raiding here, but it's probably not as big as what Nikov is able to accomplish on Tempo's side.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Leary's now dropped down to below 95 villagers now, like MBL was, 5 minutes ago. I mean, maybe we should have been talking about how can Tempo finish the game, because when they had that huge lead as well. I mean, obviously the game has swung twice now, and they haven't been able to capitalize. But yeah, I do think if Hero can just get to like 50 trade cards, and just get that kind of infinite spam paladins, and I still think they should be in a good position. It's just whether or not like Leary can kind of support with enough arbalesters to deal with the Haubs.
Exactly. Nikov definitely needs to add something against those hubs though, because he's struggling to clean them up. He's down to 106 vills, so it kind of seems like as much as Hera is suffering from the raids, Nikov is also suffering really badly here.
Yeah, you're right, and again, it's really important for the Cav player to have a huge eco, right? Like you just need like 60-70 farmers if you're going to be building loads of Hussar and loads of Cavalier. So this is really bad that he's kind of got down to this vill number. If you look at MBO, actually, he's looking to sling him right now. If you look at he's getting coinage. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. These paladins mixed in, like now they're starting to get some gold. That's going to be so strong.
Exactly, the pressure is sort of gone from the trade, and 22 trade cards, even just a couple of paladins to help out can matter, and also Leary squeezed out some ARPs to deal with the halberdiers here. And MBL is going to be able to hold with Bombard Towers for some time, but once again, it starts to swing back in the favor of Tempo, because Nikov's eco is fairly weak now after all this pressure in it, and the momentum kind of disappeared for AM here.
Yeah, and I think we have to think about, like, again, I know I keep going on about it, but Frank Paladins are really, really strong late game, man. Like, just against Cavalier, like, again, it's just really hard to figure out. Like, when you're kind of going for these Death Ball armies, like, the most pop efficient, like, Frank Vietnamese are just gonna kind of win out, right? I think at this point, like, I think they're kind of holding on. Maybe they can find a way to deal with their trade, I guess, like maybe some kind of sneak petards, but, like, other than that, I can't really see a way how Aftermath can come back from this game.
Exactly, because the trade card numbers are getting closer, and MBL is going to lose a castle here on the right side. I think there is a big difference between the teams from the perspective of walling. Like, Leary and Hare did a lot of stone walling, even fortified walls for Leary, and that protects their trade from any unwanted raids, whereas Hera is just able to spam light cav into the opponent's eco from time to time, because there is no walls for MBL and Nikov.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's clearly something they've thought about, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. I think as well, it protects their economy, like you said, right? Like, it's just nice that the Nikov can't just spam stirrup hussars into both of their economies, right? It just makes the game a lot easier to play. I think obviously that they're probably thinking as well, like, they probably know that they have the better civs for, like, the later on in the game, so they're probably like, well, if we just stonewall here, we're going to guarantee that we hit our timing, and when we hit our timing, we should be winning.
Exactly. Now Hera runs into the Halberdiers with the pod, and it's not necessarily ideal. Speaking of Nikov flooding Hussars, one of the things to point out as MBL is going to start stonewalling, even grabs Great Wall, is that Nikov still doesn't have heavy blow.
Wow. That is not ideal when you're only spamming cavalry and farms. But I mean, to be fair, I'm just surprised he's even got Horse Collar, to be honest with you. So this is a good game for Nikov.
Oh, that's savage. Now, Nikov actually assembled a big horde of Cavalier, and we talked about Petards. There's the Petards coming in. Oh, it's only 2 right now, but that's a lot of Cavalier that could run straight to the base of our green player. But there's also now a huge amount of Paladins here for Hera. 38 Paladins versus 43 Stirrups Hussar.
And this combo is just so deadly. Look at those halves, look at those orbs. Like, no longer can MB just send some halves and he'll be fine. Like, they're just kind of fighting against a weaker, against a stronger army, right? I'm not really sure if I like where Tempo are pushing. I guess they're kind of just pushing down the middle where there's less defense of the trade. I guess that kind of makes sense, right?
I think it does. Now, both teams have a reasonable number of trade cards now, so we will see gold units reappearing on the field. But this fight could be extremely important, and honestly, the Halberdiers of MBL are a bit mispositioned here.
Yeah, honestly, this is great. I don't know how they're doing it. How are they holding this? I mean, I guess they're going to the hill now. These orbs should be getting huge value. I just feel like Tempo have a bigger army here.
Indeed, but that's going to be a lot of Paladins going down for Hera, and Halberdiers coming in here from Leary. Still, it looks like Nikov is delaying his push against the trade in what is a crucial fight. I still think that the fight is better for Tempo here. They have the Paladins, they have the hill with the Arbs, and they are shooting the Halberdiers from a distance, although it's easier for MB and Nikov to reinforce, but I think that hill, plus the fact that the Arbs could focus down the hubs, wins them the fight here. And as you said, Aftermath is now in a big trouble, because I think their window is gone. They had the option to deny trade, but now Tempo has the trade back on track, and that allows them to just go for the superior unit comp. We could even see some Rat and Archers in the future from Leary.
Yeah, Rat and Archers I think would seal the deal, right? It's quite expensive to get to that, you need a lot of trade. But yeah, it just felt like, again, you're just trading worse units against better units. It's just very hard. The problem is as well is that Hera with Chivalry can just reinforce so quickly if he does have trade, right? That's one of the other problems. Like, they just produce, like, you know, it's almost like Huskars, you know, like, or Karambits. Obviously, it's not that quick, but it's much quicker than Nikov.
MBL never grabbed Blast Furnace for his hubs. Obviously, that hurts so badly. Like, if he had Blast Furnace in that previous fight, that could have been a decider factor in that.
I'm not too sure on that one, just because Halberds do most of their damage through, like, bonus damage, right, rather than actual, like, melee damage. Like, it would have been nice, but it's not really going to be game-changing.
Now MBL's ARBs are getting sandwiched in here, and if the ARBs go down, they have no answer to the ARBs from our green player, Leary. Well, Nikov still has the petards on the north, but he doesn't have anything to raid the opponent's army. Then look at that flood of paladins across the map from Hera.
Yeah, I think at this point in the trade like this, I think time is running out for Aftermath here. This is just without trade. I mean, against full trade from Frank and Vietnamese, there's not much they can do. They're still trying. Maybe they can. I mean, I'm not sure what they can do really. I guess Nikov did some pitas on the north, but he's only got 2 units, and yeah, the GG scored.
Indeed. Still, Tempo edges out a victory here. I think it was sort of nice comeback. They had 100 villagers deficit at some time in the game, but MBL Nikov failed to close out the game. On the other hand, we should talk about this. Bulgarians and Chinese are technically the inferior Civ combo here compared to Franks and Vietnamese. And if you look at the maps, you take a look at Arabia and you say, hey, Tempo should have the upper hand in this map. So MBL Nikov went for some of their weaker civs, I would say, or at least something that's not as important on other maps as these are. Whereas Heron Leary went for 2 very strong civs of their own. So maybe MBL Nikov didn't want to bring in their best possible civs here and just wanted to make sure that, we try this. And I think the way that the game was played, there is hope for MBL Nikov because Arabia is a map that should favor Heron Leary, especially with these civs by a massive margin. But MBL Nikov made this very competitive. So on their home maps, if they have some good game plan with the civs that they plagued, that could be very possible to win those home maps for themselves. Aftermath still losing game number 1.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think I would say that they did pick good civs though. Like I know that the Tempo picked Franks, which was like later on in their draft, but I still think Franks are obviously like they're the best pocket civ on Arabia, or one of, or best Cav civ on Arabia in team games. And Chinese it was the first pick for Aftermath, so I think both teams kind of brought some really good civs. I just don't really see there's not really another civ like if you look at Aftermath's actual like their second roster, like there's not really another civ that you'd really play on Arabia as the Cav civ other than Bulgarians. Maybe humans could have worked, but I just think Bulgarians give you a little bit more like kind of bite. It's kind of easier to get to like the upgrades with the blacksmith techs being cheaper. But yeah, I think despite them having a civ disadvantage, I still think that game was easily winnable for Aftermath. I just think they just kind of struggled to close out. I think honestly that point when MBL's ARBs all got kind of caught off guard, I think that's kind of when the game snowballed and the momentum. It didn't really switch, but at that point, like they just couldn't kind of deal with that finishing blow. And with players as good as like Hera or Leary, they can stay in the game, they can reboom, they can get to their timing late game, right?
Exactly. MBL and Nikov just kind of failed to close out the game before Hera could get to Paladins, and that was a massive, massive thing. Still, I have to say that Arabia is probably one of the strongest maps for Tempo. Like, 2 very, very skilled players, mechanically, very, very good team coordination. So, even before the series, I would have said that, hey, if you're Aftermath, your best hope is to go for, like, the wins on the more specialized maps. Like, first of all, your home maps, and then try to take away a game on the home map of Leary and Hera.
Yeah, but okay, so if we're talking about home maps for Hera and Leary, I mean, they've got, so yeah, I mean, if we're talking about civs as well, like on Coast of Mountain, they have Mongols and Celts ready, which I feel like those 2 are like the best, like kind of combo on that map. Like it's very hard to deal with them if he gets it in. And then if we're looking at like Cape of Storms, they've got Lithuanians, they've got kind of a wide range of civs that they can use. Whereas if you look at kind of Aftermath's like kind of civ roster, like what civs are really going to be carrying you to the victories on some of those hybrid maps, right?
Yeah, that some of those are a little bit tricky. I think that Tempo has done a very, very good job of just giving actual bad civs to the opponent, or civs that have a tough time matching up with the ones that MBL and Nikov picked. So, like you see that, for example, MBL and Nikov are sort of oversaturated with the archer civs. Vikings, obviously that could be for team islands, but same thing, Italians, Vikings, Japanese, Aztecs, all of those are basically archer civs, if you would use them on a fairly standard map. Obviously, on specialized maps there is other uses, but I think it's a very, very nice move that they added Incas, Saracens, for example, as the second pool civilizations, which allows them to kind of have some mismatched civilizations here.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, although giving someone Saracens does leave, some kind of shenanigans potentially on the table, because they can be such a such a tricky civ to play against, especially if you have a prepared strategy. Yeah, I do see what you mean. Like, it's kind of hard to see where the cab civs. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. I mean, they've got Indians and Persians for cab civs as well, if they wanted them. Okay, so they did pick Indians towards the end of the draft, as I've now realized, obviously. If we are going to see Indians, where are we going to see them, do you think?
Oh, that's hard. Indians, for example, have a decent water tech tree, so it could be something that you use on team islands if you feel like, hey, I want to use, let's say, Italians on Forest Pond and maybe something like Vikings on Coast Mountain. I would think that Vikings might be their team island civ, and that means that Indians would most likely go for something like Coast Mountain, maybe?
Yeah, I just think it's again the I don't mind the Indians pick, but why are you giving your opponents Celts? I guess they didn't have much of a choice, but I mean, to me, it just feels odd because, like, sure, Indians can counterpick Mongols, but like that doesn't really matter when Indians get hard countered by Celts. So like, I just honestly though, maybe Tempo doesn't pick Celts on Coast Mountain. Maybe they pick it on another map and then they're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they, like you said, they do have a lot of like they picked 3 water civs in a row, right? Like, it's gonna be interesting to see where they do pick Italians, where they do pick Vikings, and where they do pick Japanese. Do you think Japanese maybe on Kawasan or something? Or again, it's kind of hard to figure out where they're gonna play some of these civs.
I feel like Japanese is your civ for, like, it could be good for Coast Mountain, even Cape of Storms, Kawasan, or Forest Pond. Like, the Japanese extra fishing ship HP helps so much. I would think that it might be best on a map like either Cape of Storms, where you might not want to focus on defending your ships that much, or Coast Mountain when there is an early and aggressive water play and you want to keep your fishing eco alive. I think Forest Pond is a map where the fish is not as important as it is on Cape of Storms or Coast Mountain in, like, starting mid to late feudal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Honestly, I think you're right. I think maybe they picked Japanese. Like, there are just so many hybrid maps in this draft, right? There's, I think, all except North Socotra have some form of water on it. So I guess it kind of makes sense that you want to have Japanese in your draft, right? So yeah, do we know what map it's going to be, by the way?
Not yet, but we will actually soon see the game.
Okay.
So it is going to be one of AM's home maps. Do you think that they should pull the trigger on something like Team Islands right now? Because that's, is a bit more of a slow-paced game at the beginning. You have a bit more time to gain some confidence. It's not like, let's say, not Socotra, where your opponent will just start running towards you with scouts, laming whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not too sure. I think it really depends what they practice, right? Like, I think if you're more comfortable with Forest Pond and Socotra, then not Socotra, sorry, then I think you go for those. But if they practice a lot of Team Islands, then go for it. I think they also have really good civs to pick as well. Do you think? I mean, if it is Islands, do you think Tempo will pick Portuguese and just go for that really annoying late game, or do you think they'll pick Malay instead?
I think Malay is a civ that you would probably use more on Forest Pond. So that Malay could be a very, very strong civ on Forest Pond. I think Team Islands is almost guaranteed to be Portuguese.
Almost guaranteed to be Portuguese. Yeah, okay, that makes some sense. I think Portuguese, they could have some use on Forest Pond as well, and Malay could also have use on Team Islands, but yeah, maybe. I think it's kind of hard, really. I mean, I guess Portuguese have some nice kind of clownery, some some kind of tricks up their sleeve with castle drops into organs and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Malay is probably more solid on Forest Pond.
So we will have game number 2 coming in here with Forest Pond. That is the other map where you can slow down the game a little bit. Nikov is going to be playing Italians and MBL is playing Turks, which I think is the ideal composition here when it comes to, how do you play the map. We have seen so many games on Forest Pond, and usually the best way to do it was one player going water, the other one going for like a castle drop outside aggression. The same setup is there as well for Leary and Hera though with Conquistadors. Which of these two civs do you prefer? We have a Spanish and Malay versus Italians and Turks matchup.
I honestly don't know. I guess if you're going for uniqueness, then MBL will be kind of countered by the Kongs, just because they have more mobility. But I'm not really too sure. I mean, I guess I think it's quite even, but I would probably prefer tempos, just because I feel like Spanish are kind of easier to play in the like mid game than Turks are. But I think I think it's quite even. I think it's like it depends what they go for, right? Like and how they use their serves. Honestly, that's kind of a cop out answer, I know, but it's like these are not really like Spanish Turks. They're not common civs on these kind of maps, right?
Exactly. One thing that could be good for Turks is that Janissaries often have more damage potential than Conquistadors are because mobility is a smaller factor here. The extra range, however, to pick off Monks and Manganos when you're pushing with like the Janissaries and Manganos yourself is something that could be an advantage for Turks. On the other hand, Malay reaching Feudal Age a little faster could be something to point out as an advantage.
Yeah, I mean Malay have a really nice kind of opening in these maps, right? With that bonus, but then so do Italians, right? So I think Malay Italians are pretty similar, right? I think Italians have Genoese cross to win, which makes them a little bit stronger in the late game. Along with like, well, I guess they both have Bombard Tower, I think. So I think it's quite even. It's just how MBL and Hero use Turk and Spanish. I think that's the biggest question that needs to be resolved right now.
Exactly. As we welcome you to Forest Pond, we will have Nikov as Italians on the right side in yellow. Left side is going to be Turks for MBL in red. And he's going to be up against Leary in green as Malay. And Hera will be to the right of Leary in blue Spanish. So technically it is very possible that we'll have both castle drop players, just castle dropping the water players because they're not up against each other.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess it depends if they want to play for castle drop, right? Yeah, I think I don't know if that favors one team or the other, right? I think maybe you're just kind of like leading to a kind of I don't know, very tense situation where both people are being castle dropped. I think could be quite. I don't know about luck dependent, but it's quite difficult to figure out which civ is better for that scenario.
So, we will have potential castle drops before that, obviously some water fighting to be had. It is expected that everybody goes for water here. It would be a massive surprise if someone didn't. So the real question is, what can Nikov do against Leary here? Because Leary should have a slightly faster feudal age with Malay, despite the fact that Italians can click up earlier.
Yeah, and if we look at Leary's build, he's already taking his boar 2 minutes 30 into the game. He's not even got a lumber camp yet. So I know that Leary has a lot of very specific builds, so I wonder if he's doing some kind of like fast uptime build. I just find that really interesting.
I also love how he squeezed in some villagers in between the lumber camp and the wood line. That is going to make that wood line very, very efficient for him at the beginning, with little villager bumping and basically zero walking time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's Leary loves those like small things, right? Like the kind of the small efficiencies, like taking the board a little bit earlier, stuff like that. I do want to. I am interested by his build because I know from studying Leary's builds in the past, they're always very clean. So I'm wondering if he's got anything in store for us with Malay,
I would think that not at the beginning. It is definitely like the main question is how is he going to react to a potential aggressive play from MBL, because on water I would think that Nikov and Leary will be fairly even here, because both of them are very, very good water players, and this is not gonna be Galley Micro because the space is too tight. So in terms of Fire Galley fights, I think Nikov can have a nice matchup against Leary, although Leary's Micro there is still going to be tough to crack.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I'm still just super interested by how these guys are going to play this. I mean, it's looking fairly standard so far. Like I said, I mean, all teams will probably go water. Do you think MBL and Hero will hard commit to the water, or do you think they'll just kind of low commit or just 1 or 2 docks maybe?
I would say that MBL and Hera will probably just stay at 1 dock, although it's worth pointing out that Hera is just now getting his first fishing ship out. Whereas MBL already had one out, so a slight advantage there for MBL from that perspective. And everybody indeed goes for a dock. I don't think that's a surprise. You just get so much value from that early fish, even if you lose it in feudal. That's going to give you a nice advantage when it comes to going up to castle.
Yeah, definitely. So in some of the early rounds, didn't Leary and Hero lose a map? Lose this map in particular to, was it Burn Sito? I can't remember who it was exactly.
They were, indeed. Brew and Sito
Yeah,
surprised Leary and Hera here.
Yeah, do you think maybe Aftermath maybe saw that game and thought maybe we can do something ourselves similar, or do you think they're just kind of good at the map, practice it a lot?
I think it's a mix of both. So they probably saw that this is not one of the stronger maps for Tempo. Tempo is still strong on this map, but this is definitely one of the weaker maps for Tempo from the map pool. I feel like they probably also saw that game and thought, hey, we could have a good strategy here with this castle drop. I'm not sure if they were expecting the same play to be had from Tempo. I feel like the main reason why I claim that they saw that game and they think that, hey, they're gonna have an edge here with this castle drop plus water play is because if they just want to go like a slow early game, something that, is just a closed map, then they probably would have gone for Hideout instead or Regicide Fortress, but the fact that they are actually going for this map means that they definitely have something up in their mind that is probably similar to what we have seen from Brew and Sito.
Yeah, okay. One thing that's really interesting, that's also a good point. One thing I want to point out myself though is that so it looks like Hero is going for Fast Castle. Okay, it looks like Hero is going for Fast Castle Kongs, and MBL is just going to play for Water. What do you think about this? Is this good? Is this bad? I mean,
I don't necessarily like it. It's a surprise factor because maybe MBL and Nikov saw the saves of the opponent and said, hey, they probably know that we're coming with this castle drop, so we'll just change things up and go for a galley play here, or fire galley play. This means that AM should have an upper hand at winning the water. And it looks like Nikov will also be able to hit Hera's scout here, because Hera is still Dark Age. On the other hand, as Hera tried to trap that scout, did you see those foundations? He tries to create a little zoo here, but Nikov is not eating that trap. He wants to trap that scout in there, but Nikov has experience enough to avoid that.
Yeah, that's really funny actually.
So
that's classic Hero, yeah.
It's gonna be double docks from both AM players. There's a chance that Leary will just play triple dock eventually. Indeed, here's the third dock. I think that this will still allow AM to win water, but leaving Hera to go full boom is something that's troublesome, and Nikov will start rolling off the side. I think this is something that who was it? I think it was ROR, Kamigawa and Ganji that did this.
Yeah.
That
they spent the entire game walling, right?
Exactly. Like, they had one player that was a designated waller and just walled 10-layer stone walls. And in this case, I like the double galley play, although MBL is gonna have to wall on the left side as well, because otherwise, Hera's Conquistadors will just get there. Still beautiful demo there from MBL sinking Hera's fishing eco. And it's not just about, how many fishing ships you have, it's also how long you keep them alive. So being able to snipe those early means that Hera's eco, especially with Spanish that don't have any persistent eco bonus, is going to be fairly weak for that fast castle.
Yeah, I just want to point out, by the way, I really like how Nikov is not committing fully to the water. I think they kind of realize right now that they're going to win it quite comfortably. And instead of adding more fire galleys, he's only built 2 docks, and now he's adding fish. So obviously, like, Hera is going to be really scary with those conks, and that could be really nasty timing, especially if Nikov isn't stonewalled. But it looks like he's not, like, overcommitting, right? Like, they're not, like, going all in for this water play. They're just they're building enough, and he's going to start probably transitioning into, like, some kind of, maybe crossbows, maybe something that can defend himself,
And the fishing eco for Leary is gone as well, and if you just take a look at Nikov, he has 7 fishing ships, which means that, yeah, Hera's going to be up to Castle Age, but cheaper cost on clicking up to castle with Italians and having extra fishing ships means that I don't think Nikov is going to be that much behind.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're on Nikov here, what do you go for? Do you go for, like, maybe archers, or what's the play here, do you think?
I think Stonewall and Boom, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that could be... It depends. He's probably going to get castle drop, right? That's the only issue. So like, if you do get castle drop, do you still? What do you do? Like, what's the response? Do you think?
One thing that he could consider is going for like an early stone mining himself, because Genoese crossbows will be extremely good against conquistadors. But for now, I think he's just focusing on delaying that castle drop with stone walls. Like, he needs stone walls for this one. Palisades won't stop Hera's vills, and Hera is going. I feel like this is a bit of an undercommitment here for Nikov with the walls.
Yeah, I think Hero's struggling with the pathfinding a little bit because he keeps right-clicking them and they keep going the other direction because obviously Nikov is walled. But like, I guess already by like walling like this, like it's already delayed like Hero quite a bit. Like he can't build the castle really where he wants to, which is right next to Nikov's base. So
So it looks like Lear is gonna go for a couple of galleys here to snipe fishing ships, but I wonder if this investment is worth it. Like, he's going to take down a couple of galleys, but I feel like he's still going to lose most of his fire galleys, and Nikov just tries to add walls behind.
Yep, he's not good at it.
Oh, just a little too late. And that is going to be an extremely important factor, because I would have thought that Nikov needs to add a little bit more here. He's trying to just slow down those bills here. Look at that zoo he's building. God. He's like, just slow this down as much as possible. He's trying to get a second palisade here so they can't run past. And Nikov brings in the wheels for some wheel boxing.
Oh my, yeah, this is gonna be a big boxing fight. Like, there's more villagers coming from here as well.
Yeah, but like, obviously Hera can't really afford to lose a lot of vills, and this castle drop is not gonna happen anytime soon, I believe. Hera's gonna have to drop a much more passive castle than he wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's what you want. Okay, so you're actually spot on with the Genoese crossbowman, right? Like, if we see Nikov's base, he's now responding with a lot of villagers on stone. So it looks like he'll be going for just, you know, a castle defense. Like, he's walling up the right hand side. Oh, he's already got enough for a castle, actually. I think Nikov will be fine, right? Like, the only problem is that maybe on the right hand side he's a little bit exposed, but otherwise, like, yeah, he should be good to build that castle.
Exactly. And remember what MBL did in one of their previous sets. Once you expose the back of the opponent's bases from the water, you can land inside the opponent's base. And it looks like MBL will just go for a free TC boom, because they know that Lear is quite a bit behind. And MBL brings in his scout to try and snipe the Vil, and he will. Another Vil goes down from Hera. Hera's eco is very weak right now, so he's actually on 2 TCs, but I doubt he can produce from both. I'm not necessarily a fan of that castle position, though, for Nikov.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Are you a fan of the second town center from Hera?
Nope.
Yeah, like, it just feels like, what are you really planning to achieve with that? You're going forward castle and forward siege? Like, I mean, you've already lost water, right? So you're massively behind economically, or should be, and you're not even committing to the push. Like, it's kind of a bit weird.
I think
yeah, I guess we'll see how this plays out.
I think the big deal with this second TC, from one perspective, I like it, because he isn't kind of all-inning this castle push, especially knowing that he won't really have the chance to do a lot of damage. But with the weak eco that he has, I doubt that he can actually sustain a very consistent Vil production and conks at the same time, which means that this Conquistador push might just die out very early on.
Yeah, I just feel like, I mean, he's only got 2 conks, right? Like, I mean, what are 2 conks really going to do? I guess one good thing that he is doing is he's delaying Nikov quite a bit, because Nikov's not building a town center right now. He's probably just expecting some kind of full all-in, right? That isn't coming. So, in that, honestly, maybe it is a good play, because if you look at his eco's actually quite clean. Especially if you compare it to Nikov's. Like, obviously Nikov has fish, but like, yeah, it feels like, I guess Hero's just trying to kind of get an eco, maybe not lead, but, you know, trying to even out a little bit.
Exactly, and honestly, Hera has a very nice job here with the TCs. If he's 2 TCs and not making conks, he should have the chance to boom up. Obviously, the fishing eco will still be there for Nikov. And I feel like the biggest problem for Hera is that the back of his base is very much open. So this is the moment where a transport ship could do quite a lot of damage. And I mean, Nikov has a couple of Gembos, something that he could transport over, or MBL is adding a stable.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to interrupt because Nikov's doing fast imp.
Indeed.
What's he going to achieve with that? Do you think he's going for chemistry, bomber cannons? Like, what's the play here?
He has a castle, so I think I like this quite a bit, because by the time Hera decided not to push this and go for a boom, which means Hera's gonna have no army. And Leary is also booming on 3 TCs, right? Actually, it's 4 TCs. So fast imp, trap play here could actually be extremely devastating because Hera could lose that castle and suddenly his base as well, especially if you consider that the back of Hera's base is very open as well. And NBO's making light cav. I think he wants to transport into one of the opponent's bases here with light cav.
Yeah, that could be really annoying for Hero to deal with. I think they see that Leary is ward, so it have to go to Hero if they are going to go to anyone. Yeah, that could be super annoying for Hero, like especially if he's going to have to deal with this fast imp, right? Like you have to, be like 2 places at once. Like try and get up to imp and deal with the January's crossbone, and to deal with MBO scouts. So do you think he is going to transport them? Is he building one?
I think he will, or for now he's just sending in light cav because he could actually intercept the Vil here on an outpost. But I think MBL will eventually think about the transporting. One thing that's very important, I believe, is that... bless you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just
So,
1 second.
I think when it comes to discussing fast imps, we always talk about fast imp is a weak eco build. But in this case, Nikov's eco is not that weak. So Hera only has a 10 Vil lead, and Nikov is going to be up to imp.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just think this whole thing was a little bit risky, right? Like, I don't know, like he could have just boomed, and then you're against Italians. You have Italians against Spanish. Like, is that just not good for Italians? Like, I'm not really sure. Like, I guess we're gonna have to. We'll see like what Nico can achieve. He's gonna have to start pushing really. Okay, he's going for chemistry, not chemistry. Sorry, he's going for bracer, treb. Makes sense. Yeah, how are the others looking? It looks like I do want to say that Leary's done an amazing job with his boom. He's managed to really get a nice eco number despite obviously losing water. Similar numbers to MBL as well, so that should be solid. I mean, I guess on this left-hand side, do you think we're going to see like MBL open Hussar maybe? Because he's worried about orbs? Like, what's the play here, do you think?
Exactly. Now, Hera's going to click into Imperial, and he adds a lot of stone walls here, although he kind of closes out some of his villas, so... I mean, that's going to be a bit of an exodus there. It looks like he will save them for now. The trap is still coming in, and Hera's gonna have time to get into Imp here, I believe. The bigger deal is that MBL is gonna pick up to Imp right now, and Leary isn't, although Leary is Malay, so he could still catch up. But I feel like Leary is a little bit too far away from making army. It looks like he might go for hubs.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think he has to open Harbs. It's kind of tricky for Melee actually, because you can't really open Arb because of obviously the Hussar, right? So you have to open Harb, and you don't really want to be opening just Harb with Melee. This doesn't seem that strong. Okay, one thing I would like to point out there as well is that even though Hero's been booming, oh, I think my game just crashed.
No, it's a pause. Nope, it's a crash.
No, it's a crash. Yeah, that makes sense because I saw MBL reloading the game. So okay, yeah.
So we will probably have a word from Robo on what exactly happened. There's a chance it's a drop, and they will have a restore. Or that could be just spectator crash, which would be a very, very disappointing scenario.
No, I think it has to be a restore. Because like I said, I saw MBL load the game back up again. So I think it should be a restore, but maybe it isn't. It's hard to tell sometimes with the...
Let's hope it's not a spectator issue. Only Robo says it is a game crash.
Okay.
So it is not just casters crashing, it is players crashing as well. But hopefully we will have a restore. And this one will probably get word from Robo in a moment. So, how do you feel, like, at this point, it seems like with the Halberdiers opening on the left side, the Malay player should have an upper hand over the Turkish player. On the other hand, on the right side, I feel like the push from Nikov seems to be slightly stronger than what Hera can handle.
Yeah, well, okay, I think I kind of disagree about the Malay thing, right? Because if you think about it, like, all MBO has to do is just see the halves, and then he just builds the archery ranges and build hand cannons, and then it's like, well, like, how do you really push with the Malay, right? Like, That's what I was saying. It's kind of a tricky matchup for Melee in figuring out how you're supposed to use that early imp timing, right? Yeah, I think also the key as well is that Hero just seems like he's going to get potentially steamrolled by that fast imp and those trip and that timing as well. So like, I think it definitely looks like it's going to be tricky for Tempo to really stabilize and not take too much damage, especially as well. I think like maybe if you're looking at the late game, maybe like Turk Italians is actually probably better than Malay and Spanish, or actually maybe not better, but it's kind of tricky. Like if you're Spanish against Italians, what units do you really build? Right, you have to build like Halb Onager basically.
Yeah, that kind of
kind
feels
tricky
like
to figure out.
maybe heavy on the elite skirm side, but definitely not ideal because you want your Spanish player to play Paladin in the long run, but obviously against Genoese crossbows, that's very tough. According to Robo, the word is that we are sort of investigating the issue. The players also crashed, which is a scary moment, because if you don't have a restore file, then that has to be replayed according to rules. It would be very unfortunate to have like a full crash.
Oh no, that'd be disaster. Yeah, that is extremely unfortunate because it definitely felt like Aftermath were kind of in the driving seat of that game. Like I mean, obviously the game wasn't over, but it felt like it was kind of close to being in a snowball position, right?
Exactly. That would be a disaster because it wasn't like one team was dominating to just say, hey, the other team was probably having little chance to come back. On the other hand, AM had a massive lead in this one. According to the admins, it is currently being investigated if we can restore. So,
Okay. Yeah, it felt like from people in chat saying Hera just crashed or something.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean for me, I mean my game's closed, right? I struggle to see how there would be a save game folder from that. It's just that's really unfortunate though.
Yeah, that is extremely unfortunate because like that apparently was a hard crash for everybody. So players, casters at all. I have to say that I have seen a lot of crashes from Definitive Edition in my life, but never seen such. So
Yeah, very strange for everyone to crash at the same time. That is odd. I don't know what causes that, honestly. Like, what is that? Maybe that's. I honestly have no idea. Like, that's so strange.
well, maybe just Bill Gates plugging off the power at the servers, but that is not looking great. We will still need some time until we have to figure out what's up. Unfortunately, as I said, the game was so open that it is impossible to say, hey, let's just give 1 point to one team and then just go for the next game. On the other hand, it kind of feels sad when you have to replay a complete game when one team probably had an advantage over the opponent.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that. Yeah, maybe Aftermath had a slight advantage, but yeah, it's kind of hard to tell where exactly that was going to go. Like, obviously, just because you have a slight advantage doesn't mean you're going to win a game, right? So you can't really do much about it. It's just one of those things. Probably, if there's no saving info, I guess I'll just have to replay it.
Exactly. That's basically the case for all tournaments. It's just a matter of whether or not having a hard crash or not.
Yeah. So when they replay, do you think Aftermath will not Aftermath? Sorry. Do you think Tempo will change their strategy? Do you think we'll see Hero now go for water, or what do you think is going to happen?
Honestly, I feel like at this point I am more likely saying that I'm just hoping that we don't have to get to that position. Like when things like this happen, as if I am like a neutral caster, so casting someone else's event, I'm always saying that this is the moment where I wouldn't actually want to be in charge of the tournament. On the other hand, it is a completely admin decision, and
Yep. Yeah. It's just one of those things, right? It's just unfortunate. I think it's just going to be difficult for Aftermath to recover mentally, right? Like after being quite well, maybe I don't know about quite right, but it felt like the game was like evolving in a way that they were comfortable with, in a way that they were kind of controlling the game, controlling the tempo of the game, right? Well, I guess, yeah. Oh well, just have to deal with it. Do we know if they're rehosting them?
It looks like we won't be able to restore, so that was a hard crash. That's extremely unfortunate, but it sometimes happens. It happened with other tournaments in the past. I am extremely sad. However, I don't think that there was a position, especially if you just take a look at the Arabia game, for example, how back and forth that is. I don't think anyone could safely say which team was leading. It seemed like AM had momentum, but saying that AM won that game just because they temporarily had numbers advantage is, I think, something that would be extremely unfair to Tempo as well. It is hard, but it sometimes is. So.
Yep. Yeah. There's just nothing you can do about it. Just one of those things. I wonder if have they made lobby? Do you think?
Yep. They will replay it.
Okay. Nice.
So it is just the way things work. It's a hard crash for everybody.
Yep. Oh well, just have to deal with it. Oh, so I mean, like I was saying, so I guess we'll probably see a different strategy now from Tempo, because that last one was not ideal. I think at least it didn't seem particularly efficient in kind of putting any pressure on Nico really. Do you think? Yeah. Okay. Do you think we'll see both teams play differently now? Because obviously Nico went for that fast imp, right? So maybe we'll see him just boom now, and maybe Hero will just. We'll probably just see a more standard game next time, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it feels like both teams know what the opponents were going for, and they'll probably just, like I said, Hero will just go for the water. Like Nico will probably boom now because, like, obviously, if he does try to fast sim, they'll kind of know what's going on. So, do you think that would change how like the matchup plays out in late game? Maybe.
It's hard to say. I think one of the bigger differences to look at is that this means a complete replay means that the new map will be generated as well. And what that means is that we might see a different matchup. So instead of, MBL versus Leary, so Turks versus Malay and Spanish versus Italians, we might see Turks versus Spanish from that perspective. And in that case, it is a completely different scenario. And I think what happened in this game in terms of strategy might be even irrelevant for that situation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If they're on different sides, I think if they're on different sides, you probably prefer. Do you prefer Spanish and Malay? Because I think Spanish are probably better against Turks than Malay are, right? And Malay are probably better against Italians than Spanish would be. So yeah, I guess it all comes down to the RNG, right? Like if they spawn on opposite sides or the opposite sides from last game, then maybe that will change how they play out the game. Because I can't see if you are Hera and you're against Turks, I don't think you're going to castle drop, right? Or maybe you will. I'm not really sure.
It's hard to say. So.
Yep.
Alright, we should have a game in a moment, I believe. So, it's unfortunate, but it sometimes happens. And each team will start with a clean sheet. Obviously, AM had an advantage in there, but as we said, there was no decisive advantage. It wasn't like they were, 200 veils ahead and so on. And it is, the situation where it just sucks to be in such a situation overall, but sometimes it happens, and there is some things that we can't influence in terms of crashes and restores.
Yeah, exactly. Some things you just can't really change. Like, it's not like one person crashed, everyone crashed, right? So, like, just, yeah. Oh, well. Just have to move on. So I guess we're just still waiting for the lobby.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So, according... okay, there is a different decision. Tempo decided to give Aftermath the win for that game. This
Wow. Okay.
I would say that it's disappointing from the perspective that tempo definitely wasn't dead in that game. This is not an admin decision, basically. I guess tempo at that point decided that they were behind, and it seems like they will forfeit their opportunity to replay this one. I think, despite the fact that, as I said, by rule, the game should technically have to be replayed, we have to give a shout out to Tempo for saying that, okay, we will just give you the win because you were leading at the time of the crash instead of replaying that. There is nothing else that we can do, so like there is two alternatives. Either it's replayed or it's one team given a score, and if we have to give one score, then it is probably AM that was leading at that very moment. I would have loved to see the game evolve because it was very far from over, but massive respect for Hera and Lyri for admitting that the way that the game was looking like, Hera had no answer to the Genoese crossbows and traps pushing his way, and they lost water, their backs of their bases were exposed, so there was more going for AM than it was for Tempo, that's for sure, at that time.
Yeah, I think you just have to respect Tempo for giving them the win. I think it definitely felt like the Tempo were... No, not Tempo, sorry, Aftermath were probably going to be able to snowball quite a nice advantage from that Nikov position, right? But you can't really know whether or not that's going to happen. It felt like they're in an advantage, but like obviously it's not necessarily a huge one, so that's props to them for giving them the victory.
Exactly. I think they just understood that is the reason why, it took some time until the decision was made, because maybe they also looked at the game and said, hey, we were indeed behind, and that takes some time.
Yeah, I think that the biggest loss, I think, for at least in my perspective, is that we lost out on a really good game, because I was very interested to see how that was going to play out and see how both teams would react to what was going on, and unfortunately we've been robbed from that. But yeah, it's just unlucky, right? I mean, sometimes there's a reason that the game crashes for all four players at the same time, and there's nothing you can do about it. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are some things we can't influence. Now, if AM ends up winning this set, obviously this is going to hurt for Tempo. However, as I said, you either replay it or you pretty much forfeit the game if you're Tempo. And they said, okay, we were behind and we will forfeit from this game. I think it's good sportsmanship from their side. And
yeah, definitely. Props to them. But anyway, moving on from that whole debacle, we're probably going to be going to... I mean, Coaster Mountain was first picked as a home map, right? Do you think we'll see that next, or do you think they'll save that for later?
That's an interesting question, I would say. I think Coaster Mountain and Cape of Storms are the two strongest maps for Hera and Lyri. Most likely, Cape of Storms is their strongest. I would think that they might save Cape of Storms for a little later. But Coaster Mountain is definitely something to consider. We'll go to Tempo's home map because by rule, it is the previous game's loser's home map. And I think if Tempos wants to strike back really fast here and gain that lead back, then Cape of Storms is a good place to do that. They might be the strongest team on that map overall.
Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, they could do either, I think. I think, honestly, Coaster Mountain, like I said, feels like a really comfortable victory for them just with their civs, like if everything goes well. But yeah, Cape of Storms, well, they have Lithuanians, which is really strong on that map, right, with the early dock. Who would you pair Lithuanians with from that roster?
Lithuanians. You're looking for a flank civ. Something like Celts could actually be used here. I think Malians seems like a civ for more like Kawasan. Although Celts might end up being the landing civ on Team Islands. It's hard to say because
yeah.
I think you don't want to go Malians as your landing civ. Neither with Celts because you need something that has like good late Imperial Navy in case your landing fails, right? So it's hard to say. I would still believe that if it's Cape of Storms, it's probably going to be a Celts Lithuanians play. Although Mongols is not impossible either on that map because there is a lot of hunt as well on Cape of Storms.
Yeah, what about like Tatars though? Like, where are you going to see Tatars in these maps? I mean, they don't really suit any of them. Um,
It's hard to say. Like, maybe Cape of Storms could be the place. So you see the Tar Heel bonus for the fire galleys on the water.
yeah,
We
that
have
would be funny. Yeah.
we have Coast to Mountain coming in here as
Okay.
the first home map, and this is where they will pull the trigger on Indians. We were sort of expecting that to an extent because this map has the tendency to go late into Imperial, and a strong camo Civ like Indians could be big there. And it's going to be an interesting Civ matchup, a little bit low on archers. Will MBL and Nikov be? Indians and Kumans versus
Yeah.
Mongols and Celts. Both of these civilizations feel a bit mismatched because Mongols' Mangadai is amazing, but it kind of feels like the Mangadai siege and then maybe Haben siege or Habanager from Celts. But that's not the traditional cavalry plus archer matchup that you often see.
Yeah, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I think honestly Celts could 1v2 these civs. Like, like they're just honestly against Indians they have such a strong matchup, and against Cumans they have an even stronger matchup. Like it's really hard to see. Like if this goes late game, I mean even Nikov and MBL I would struggle to make these civs work. So I think they're gonna have to have some kind of really strong like I don't know castlage timing sorted out for this map. Otherwise, I just can't see how they're gonna win a late game.
Indeed, that's going to be rough indeed. And as you said, if Celts can 1v2 these civs, that gives quite a lot of time for Leary to boom up to Mangadai, which is, once he gets to good Mangadai numbers, it is going to be extremely hard to stop, if not impossible. Like, Indians will need Imp Camos to deal with Mangadai, and even then they will somewhat struggle against that.
Yeah, I think okay. If you get in like a 1v1, like Indians can kind of deal with Mongols, right? With the M camel. But like even then, if you build your castles in good locations and just kind of keep your mass alive, like by the castles, like it's still hard to like kind of build a lasting advantage from that.
So, back to the games we go, hopefully without any further crashes, and we will welcome everybody to Cape of Storms, which is actually Coast to Mountain, I'm just Potato. So we will have Leary and Hera on the left side with Mongols in green for Leary, and Hera in blue Celts. Other side is going to be Nikov as a yellow Indians, and Kumans for MBL in red. Both of these two civs are mismatched, but as you said, I think we favor Celts and Mongols by a massive margin compared to Indians and Kumans.
Yep. It seems like Leary will be the one going for. Actually, no. They play this different. Will Mongols be the one going for water usually? I think that's how they've been playing it, isn't it?
Most likely, although with Celts, you can definitely go for that yourself. Celts is an excellent civ with the early wood bonus to just fight water early on. It's a very good aggressive skill, and that would allow Mongols to go for scouts, and that feels a bit more natural to me, because what this could give you is Mongols having scouts and map control, allowing them to take some more hunt from the middle.
Yeah, on the other hand, though, you could think of it in the reverse way and say, well, actually, Celts is better than Mongols here, actually, if you think about it. So why not just let Celt boom and, you let Leary do his thing on the water? And if you just let Celt boom, you win anyway, right? So, if Hero doesn't have to focus on the water and he can just, build 2 or 3 TCs when he gets Castle Age, then maybe that could also be a really solid play. I know Hero obviously likes the boom. Yeah. Okay. So in the case of Aftermath, how do they find a way to deal with these civs? Like, do they just like commit to the water? Do they go like really aggressive in feud age? Like, how do they win this game?
It's extremely hard, because the thing is that this map is not really suitable for like an early to mid Castle Age pressure. This almost often or almost always goes into Imperial, and so you have a limited opportunity in Castle Age to actually make a good push happen, which means you're forced to fight an Imp, but in Imp your civs are just worse. So if this was, let's say, Arabia, I would say you have to play a very aggressive game and you should be good to go. But on this map, it's a little bit harder to do in terms of completely finishing off your opponent on land.
Yep, and Hero's managed to run off with 3 sheep with his camel from MBO's TC. I guess does the Celt bonus work for camels?
You mean the Bactrian camos? I think it does, because it applies to all units. And it appears that the lamer gets lamed now, loses free
Yeah.
sheep. I think, however, if there's one map where you're okay losing sheep, is this map, because there's a lot of hunt. You see MBL's already bringing in boar number 2. He used his Bactrian camo to block the boar, so he doesn't lose that many HP on the vills.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's again, that's one of the reasons Mongols is also so good as well. There is just so much hunt. Like, although fair play to Nikov, if you actually look at these uptimes, I mean, he's up. I think he's one vil less than. Yeah, he's up one vil later than Leary is.
Yeah,
Which,
indeed.
considering he's not Mongols, is very impressive.
Yeah, Nikov has had a very, very good uptime over here. Obviously, he's benefiting from the Indian shore fishing on that vill close to the dock. He's benefiting from the hunt and the cheaper vills. So that is something that helps quite a bit when it comes to catching up with Mongols. But indeed, that's an impressive field age time compared to the Mongols. Here and here also lames a goat away from Nikov here, so he's not done laming.
But in the meantime, Hero actually lost the vil to a boar whilst doing the lame, so it wasn't actually worth it. We just completely forgot about that vil. So
It looks like
Yeah.
Nikov will be playing water for us here, adding vills to gold. And MBL might just go straight into fuel and try to do a 2TC boom. One thing that he could do is like 2TC boom into like a big Castle Age Knights push.
Yeah, it could be Castle Age Knights or maybe Kipchaks, because I mean, if you think about it, how do you really deal with Kipchaks if you are tempo right in Castle Age? Like, I guess you go what Mangonels, but I mean they can still do quite well against Mangonels because obviously they have the extra arrows. So yeah, maybe I guess there is some potential, right? If MBO goes for this 2TC play. Oh no, actually it looks like MBO spots casting, so never mind.
That's an interesting decision with Kumans, because you basically give up on your only existing eco bonus. And if it's an FC, I think it has to be a Kipchak FC, probably a second TC being built while he's going up. Lyra is going for a double dog play, so is Nikov. But the real question is if Lyra is able to get some more hunt for himself, because if not, then his eco bonus is pretty much gone as compared to Nikov, that will have a consistent eco bonus from the cheaper vills.
Yeah, I mean he's still got 4 deer close to his town center, right? So he can take those if he wants to, and I'm sure he'll be scouting or has scouted some of the deer around the map. Yeah, look, so he sees all the hunt, so he should be aware of like where he can get the food. It's just right now he's really focusing on this kind of big water engagement.
Hero is also fast castling himself. Hero also added a lot of fish. Hero is on... How many is that? Holy smokes, it's 8 fishing ships for Hera. As a reference, Nikov has 3, and MBL has 4. And MBL is actually adding a second dock. Maybe it's fast castle War Galley from MBL?
Maybe, I mean, I think fire ships maybe makes more sense.
War Galley upgrade for fire ships.
War Galley upgrade, yeah, of course, yeah.
War Galleys on such a tight pond would make little sense indeed, but that could be an idea, because that could secure the water for them. It's risky because they give up all the land map control, though.
Yeah, I mean, not that does land map control matter too much though. Like, I guess the only problem is that the hero could just get a free boom from this, which obviously you don't want to let Celts get a free boom, especially in these matchups. But I don't mind it. One thing I do not like though is where MBL built his dogs. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to build them on the right like that. If you look at Hero's dog position, like he was able to build so many more fishing ships just because it was kind of closer to like more fish, right? So yeah, I don't like how MBL misplayed in regards to that. And if you look at his eco, he can't really afford to fast castle just yet either. He's probably going to have to buy some food and maybe sell some wood or stone, which is never ideal either.
Those sheep missing actually hurt him quite badly, because you see that he's out of food beneath his TC. So maybe those 3 sheep being stolen actually comes in clutch for Hera.
Yeah, that's an excellent point actually. Yeah, that probably made quite a big difference. Okay, so I guess we can see from the way this game is playing out that like Aftermath, their plan is to win the water and snowball the game from there, right?
Exactly.
Do you think that's going to be enough? Like,
I don't think so. I feel like this pond has quite a lot of fish, but as we progress deeper and deeper into the game, the fish is going to be less and less important. And by the time Nikov and MBL might win water, Hera's gonna be up to cast and he will be booming on 3 TCs at minimum, so the fish is going to be almost insignificant for him at some point.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Like, if you do give Kelp a free boom, they will just use it, right? And if Kelp gets to 3 or 4 TCs, like, I mean, it doesn't really matter if they lose the fish. They'll kind of start getting that draw number up very high. I think Nikov though has taken some of the better trades so far. And yeah, so MBO is going for, like you said, War Galley, or the War Galley upgrade into fire ships. So it looks like Aftermath are going to take the water control. It's just what they do with that's yet to be answered.
We will have still a fairly even engagement here. MBL almost up to Castle Age, and he's adding fire galleys, but only a couple of them. So I wonder if he will commit to the War Galley upgrade here, or just try to help a little bit to Nikov, secure some war, and then go for a fish boom.
That's a good point. I think. So what's he going for? Is he? Oh yeah, so he's not even 40-minute. Okay, yeah, so he is going for the upgrade, which makes sense because otherwise, why would you fast castle and go water? One thing I would say though is Leary also lost the build to a boar. He was clearly paying a lot of attention to the water. Oh, nice demo by Leary there as well. Yeah, I think it's nice that they're gonna clear up Hero's fish, but then at the same time, like, I mean, Nikov's losing his fishing ships in return, so it's not necessarily the biggest payoff.
Not at all. And as I said, as we progress deeper and deeper, even though there is still some deep fish left, the water seems to be more and more insignificant here, and Hero will be happy with the 3 TC boom that was fueled by a nice Castle Age time, and
MBO disconnected.
oh, a drop! Okay, this time though, it doesn't hard crash the game, so that means that we will have a restore.
Yeah, no drama this time, thankfully.
Yeah. Luckily. Don't panic, everybody. It's just another Crane crash, but this time we have a restore file. The reason why we know there is a restore is because Lyra's name is not crossed out, which means that he remained in the game until the end. And Lyra is gonna have a restore file on him. So, save and restore, and then we will just jump into the next game.
Yep. Was that MBO disconnecting, or was that everyone disconnecting, or do we know what happened?
I think it's just a standard, like, good old-fashioned drop.
Just a good old-fashioned drop, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah.
We will probably get more info from Robo in a matter of moment. MBL dropped and restore is coming, so let's try to avoid panic. We will have a game in a matter of moments. This is, the better sort of drop now that we talk about technical difficulties.
Yeah, okay, at least they all didn't crash at the same time. Although it probably would have been better for them to crash this game, because I think it's a lot more even than the last one was. Yeah, still, even then, yeah. I think it just probably... It's just more time spent,
So, we will have a restore here. I think this is actually also, like, for times when it comes to crashing the game, this is definitely one of the better times. You already have the lobby up, I think.
Oh, okay, nice.
Indeed, we already have it, so we'll jump back in a moment. So, sometimes the drop comes at an awful position or awful time because one player is not able to react to an attack and he will just lose everything, but that's not the case here. This was a good old-fashioned drop, but when the spec countdown goes down, we will have the game back.
Yeah, and yeah, hopefully we can just hop straight into things, and hopefully that'll be the last time we get any technical issues this series. Fingers crossed.
Indeed. Let's hope that we will not have any more crashes coming in. So we will go into Coastal Mountain once again.
Okay, one thing I did check before the game crashed is that I looked at Nikov's perspective. I looked at his economy, and Nikov's actually done a really good job of banking food. So I think despite Nikov being Indians and Leary being Mongols, like Nikov actually might be up to the cast stage a little bit sooner than Leary is. I'll have to double check that though, because obviously I couldn't really change perspectives. because of the crash.
So, back we are to Coast to Mountain. Nikov and MBL probably securing war a little too late, and we did discuss that if this goes into like a very late game scenario, Tempo should have the upper hand by a massive margin in terms of civilizations. So, welcome back everybody. And as I said, it's 3 TCs already for Hera to boom. He doesn't necessarily need that much fishing eco anymore. Obviously, it's good if he can keep them alive, but I think the most important part of the fishing eco, so like this Dark Age, early, mid, late Feudal Age, is pretty much gone now, so...
Yeah. I think. Do you think Hero will be content to lose those fish and just boom on the land? I mean, he's already on 3 GCs and getting up a nice economy anyway. So I guess maybe. Do you think he's thinking to himself, well, I've already got a lot of value from these fishing boats anyway. Let's just cut our losses and focus on the land economy.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that Hera will try to keep that fishing eco alive as long as possible, obviously, and Lyri might try to just get a couple more fire galleys out to slow down the push of AM here. But Hera is already adding villagers to stone, which makes me wonder if we are going to see fourth town center very soon.
And yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense, honestly.
Lyri is also doing a nice job trying to get some fishing ship kills here from Nikov, so that even if AM secures water, they won't have a crazy fishing eco going for them. So after all, ecos are basically dead even, although Hera already has a 3 TC boom, whereas MBL up to castle age is only on 2 TCs, but he's working towards a castle for Kipchak.
Yeah, so I guess they understand that they have to do something quickly, because it looks like MBL is not building any more town centers. He's just letting that gold kind of bank up. And one thing I do want to say is I like that they kind of synergized their strategy a little bit. So they went for 2 docks with both players rather than, like, on the other hand, Lyri went 3 docks. And what that's done is it's allowed Nikov to have a much smoother feudal age, and he'll be up to castle age relatively soon. He's already got kind of almost enough resources. Like, Lyri also almost has enough resources as well, but obviously bearing in mind that Lyri is Mongols, and there's like so much hunt on this map that you should really be up before the opposite flank if both of you are going water. So I think that's just quite nice team play from Aftermath to just make sure both players are making sure that the game is as easy as it can be. It's just about what they do now, right? So they've kind of won the water. It's like, how do they follow this up, do you think?
And now we're going to have a castle drop from MBL, and I wonder, like, Hera will definitely see that, but how do you stop that? And this is the moment where I think if MBL keeps the Veils on stone, what he could do is just Kipchak and the second castle drop for him. Hera will try to stop that castle, but he doesn't have the Veils for that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is a great castle, right? So they knew what Hero was going to do, right? They knew Hero was going to sit there and boom and be happy to sit there and boom. This could be trouble for Tempo, because like I was saying, like Celts are great, right? But they're only great when you get to that 130 Vil snowball and you get the Onager text and you get all the halbs and the woes, right? They're not really that great in cast stage, like when they only have the wood bonus, because they don't really have any that good units. So yeah, I mean, this Siege Workshop, these Kipchaks, they could be really annoying.
Alright, so we will have the first castle up, and this could be a capped ramp push, something that we didn't think of up until now from MBL. With Kuman's Kipchak and capped ramp could be quite tough to deal with overall.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Also, we're seeing Nikov build a stable, so I think we were right that they needed to do something in castle age. And this is exactly what they're doing. I really like how they're playing it. They're at least giving this a real shot, right? Even if they lose this game, at least they haven't just sat back and let their opponents get to their timing. They're really going for the throat right here. They're really trying to end the game, and we'll see if they can close this one out. One thing I don't like though is that even though they've killed most of the docks, like neither Aftermath players actually built any more fishing boats. Like, I think MBL's got 1 fishing ship and Nikov has got 1 fishing ship. It's like, what really was the point of winning water, like, kind of strange.
Like, what's the point of winning water here? We will have 2 more TCs added by Nikov, and with Indians you can have a great boom. And if it's just Indians versus Mongols, it's obviously much more winnable than when Celts are allowed to boom. It's only kept or battering ram right now for MBL, so he might just push with manganose. He takes down 1 TC, but Hera still has 3 more.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem I'm seeing now is this push is really slowed down, right? Like, I mean, it looked good, but like Hero still has 80 vills to MBL's 58. And I presume Hero should be close to a castle. Yeah, he's very close to dropping a defensive castle. He's already got monks and siege and everything else. So like Hero's defense is immaculate right now. I just again like it was a little bit slow. Like I don't know if they've done enough damage really with this to even get themselves that much of a lead.
And indeed. Now it's going to be a 4 TC for MBL, so he might just try to apply some pressure here to Hera, slow down his boom, and then try to outboom him that much. On the other hand, I feel like Hera's gonna have every moment that he needs to defend against this one. He will be able to take down those camels easily with the TC and the monk.
Wait,
and...
did Hero just lose a castle?
No, he didn't. He did. Wait a second.
Yeah, he just lost the castle
did.
foundation.
He did lose it.
Oh no!
Oh, Hero lost the castle foundation.
That's so big. Yeah, that's so big because now he can't. Now this defense is much more awkward because you have the camels streaming in, you have the Kipchaks that are also relatively good against siege. Like he's going to have to rely on. I'm not sure what happened there. I missed that. I think maybe the camels just took it out straight away. Like
it was the castle fire from MBL's castle. So basically what happened is that Hera started building it, the camels arrived, Hera started running away, and the castle for MBL finished it. And it wasn't a deletion because Hera is still at just 400 stone. And now he's trying to click into Imperial, but he's now under a lot of pressure here.
Yeah, this I mean, again, if we get a follow-up castle from MBR, I'm not sure what his economy is looking like. This could be even more pressure, right? Like if you have a castle on, a couple of those town centers, then again, you're just under so much pressure that it's hard to get to what you need to. Like, Halbram is still good in this position, especially with the eco that he has. But again, it's so awkward, right? Here we go. I think did he buy a castle?
He was 15 on stone, so he didn't need to buy a lot of stone. But still, the castle's gonna go up, and he's gonna have the advantage into Imp, so he will have the advantage when it comes to getting some traps out. Some more camels are out on the field. And they do some raiding damage. Still, Tempo has a massive eco lead, and now we see Spearman out for Hera. I think soon Pikeman, and I feel like the window for AM is closing here.
Yeah, I just think maybe 40 Cs. I mean, I guess he felt like MBL felt like he didn't have any other choice. Like he probably felt like the pressure wasn't going to do enough. But yeah, I just like you said, Hera hasn't really been that disturbed by this. Even though he did lose the castle foundation, he's still absolutely fine. And when he starts getting those trebs out, those that siege out with the rams and the halbs, it's going to start getting very difficult for the aftermath players to really do much against that.
Yeah, and the map control that they have right now is very deceiving. They have like 80% of the map, yet Tempo is not suffering from any damage on them. Leary is still at 81 villas as well, booming on 4 TCs, basically untouched. There is some raids going on, but nothing that really is causing major concerns for Tempo.
Yeah, I think Leary, like I said, Leary's having a great time with his eco. Like Nikov, he's got 3 town centers, but like he's not like Leary's on 4 and he's already kind of got more vills than him. So again, this isn't really a matchup where you can get into like kind of Imperial Age and not be like massively winning as the Aftermath players to have a chance. Like, so it's looking kind of rough. We'll see. Maybe they can get something done, but I'm not really sure how at the moment.
Hera coming in here with the traps. MBL just clicking into Imp, and Hera is going to have the uphills advantage as well. Although MBL is going to have a second castle soon. Those camo numbers are starting to get scary, but still, Leary with 3 monks, he should be able to slow these down to a point where Hera just grabs the halberdiers and brings in the help.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, do you think maybe another civ than Indians would have been better in this scenario? Because like, imagine having knights instead of camels here, so you can actually go and do some actual raiding and a bit more pressure. It just feels like these camels are so weak against actual units rather than so like they're weak against vills, right? Like they don't do that much damage. Like it just kind of feels like they had a lot of map control, but they didn't really do anything with it.
Hera, it seems like he's trapping uphill's castle first. Interesting decision, because the one that is downhills compared to him could be easier to take down, but he's probably just preparing a ramp push against that, and as we said, Celts, when fully boomed, can be very dangerous. You already have like 7 or 8 rams out, soon with Kept Ram, and then Siege Ram for Hera.
Yep, this ramp push, again, it doesn't look like MBL has that much in his locker to actually deal with the ramp push either. He lost his only manga now. Oh, he's got one in the back. Maybe he can use that, but again, it's going to be a lot of rams. He's got about, yeah, here we go. This should clean up these forward castles. And then when these castles are down, I don't really see what counterplay Aftermath really have against Celts, honestly.
Especially with MBL teching into scale barring armor, which implies that he wants to go for maybe a Hussar spam or Cavalier, but they're up against Hob and Siege here, and this is just a straight up massive Civ advantage here for Tempo. They use Celts very well on this map, so really the decision to go for Celts here was a reasonable one. And now, I don't know how Aftermath is going to stop this, because I don't see anything that could... Like, it's 66 army against 28,
yeah.
and that army is way better than what AM will ever be able to field.
Yeah, I mean, Nikov is doing a Cav Archer switch, but again, it just feels like... I mean, Cav Archers is still kind of hard countered by how Bram, right? I mean, by the time he gets to enough Cav Archers, like, I mean, MBL won't have any buildings left. Zika will be completely destroyed. So, yeah, it kind of feels like they didn't really have an answer to the civs that Tempo drafted. And I think you just have to give Tempo props, right? They clearly did the planning, and you know they knew that these civs would be good. And this game, it looks pretty tricky for Aftermath to even to even do any damage, really. I mean, they were putting on pressure, but it never really felt like that pressure could really lead to anything that significant, you know?
Exactly. This is the tricky thing on this map. This almost always goes into Imperial, and there is just way better Imperial Age civs for Hera and Leary. And one has to wonder if MBL and Nikov knew this exactly and just looked at their draft and said, hey, no matter what we pick here, this is a civ combo we can't fight against, so we're just using the 2 civs that we don't want to use on other maps, because that could have been a concept here for MBL and Nikov, because stopping Celts and Mongols on this map feels extremely rough, and maybe they had other thoughts for their other civilizations.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, again, you're probably right. They probably saw Mongols and Celts and they're just like, and they looked at their own civ roster and they're like, okay, we can't actually deal with this. Let's just not worry about it. Think about the next games and make sure they have the best chance on those other games. I do still think though, like, obviously Celts wasn't a civ that Tempo picked, right? Like, they got picked, Celts, by Aftermath, right? So you kind of have to question that a little bit. Like, you're picking like Celts on this map when you're picking Indians. Like, again, you kind of have to question the drafting a little bit. Clearly it's not as well thought out as perhaps it should have been. But yeah, I guess that being said as well, Tempo did kind of like first pick Mongols as well, so having Mongols is also really strong as well. One interesting thing, that Leary isn't going for Mangala, he's going for full heavy Cav Archers. That's kind of strange.
He doesn't have any villagers on stone. In fact, he doesn't even have a lot of presses on the left side where most of the stone is. So it is more about, just getting some sort of army on the field. They probably feel like they have momentum, but they don't want to throw it away by just waiting for Leary to get Mangadai out. And I mean, Mongol Cav Archers are still great. Hera has 20 on stone in exchange, so it is surprising that he's eating up all the stone in front of Leary, who is technically supposed to be going for Mangadai in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I think... honestly, like I said, like, Celts are so good against these 2 civs anyway that it probably doesn't matter that Leary isn't even on Mangadai. Like, it's like, again, like, Hera in this position can just fight against both players and still be fine. Like...
Leary coming in with the raids on the right side, but now Tempo has a massive eco lead. It's 110 army versus 36, and indeed Nikov just steps out. They had no answer to the Halberdier siege push of Tempo here, and Tempo wins a very, very easy game, I have to say, here in game number 3.
Yeah, I think the easiness of that game just comes down to civs, right? I think that maybe Aftermath could have done a little bit more with the pond. Like, I still don't understand why they didn't fish at all. Like, why has Nikov not built any more fishing boats? Kind of strange, but again, I think they probably realized that this matchup is a disaster. And like you said, they probably just picked the civs, like, knowing they were probably going to lose, and just picked their worst civs. So that probably made things worse, right?
And we're going to have a review on that, or a rewind, on that failed castle from Hera. So, basically what's gonna happen is that Hera starts dropping a castle. I'm even going to slow-mo here. The Camo comes in, and then Hera turns back with his Mangonel, tries to ground attack the other two Camos, but because the castle was so low HP, the Mangonel's ground attack killed the castle.
He killed his own castle.
He did.
Oh my goodness.
The castle foundation was at a majestic, probably 2 or 3 HP here. The castle foundation was 9 HP, and the Mangonel ground attack is going to finish that castle.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I didn't realize the Mangonel killed it. I thought maybe the castle or the camels like quickly sniped it, but he killed his own castle. That is hilarious.
Exactly.
Yeah, it shows you how dominant the civs are and the strategy that like he killed his own castle and it didn't matter at all. Like that game is still extremely comfortable.
Exactly. And now we have to go to one of the home maps for AM. I think this is the time for Team Islands. Because at this point, Natsukotra is always a gamble. Depends on how well your lames go or how much you get lamed. There is so many things that can go wrong with Natsukotra. It's a super intense early game, and you probably do not want to give Tempo a potential easy game on Natsukotra. Like, Steam Islands Escalate story, you have more time to get yourself up. It's more of a late game map, I would say. So you don't want to bring in a map where just a small mistake at the beginning of the game could lose you a game and you put yourself in a 3-1 deficit.
Yeah, that's a good point. The thing is about Socotra, like if you think about the civs that they're gonna pick, I mean, looking at tempo civs, I don't have a clue what they're gonna pick on not Socotra. Like, are they gonna pick Mayans? Are they gonna pick Ethi? Like, I mean, and of their like pool 2 civs, like what civs are they gonna pick on not Socotra as well? Like Burmese. So I mean, maybe like Aftermath look at the draft and think, well, they have no good civs in this map, and then they pick it. But yeah, I think you're right. We'll probably see Team Islands first. I think that one makes a little bit more sense.
So for Team Islands, we do have Vikings most likely remaining for AM alongside what? Maybe Saracens could be a reasonable one, though Saracens feels like an archer civ for Natsukotra. Because you can use the attack bonus against the Vols very nicely. Plus, the market helps quite a bit at just, buying the 100 stone for extra TCs. On the other side...
I mean, they could use Sicilians and do what Max did in First Crusade on their opponent's island. That could also be a play. Yeah, I think Saracens would make the most sense from a naval perspective, but maybe, like you said, you don't want to use Saracens on Team Islands just in case you want to use them somewhere else.
In that case, I think it has to be Sicilians, because I think you're probably much happier saving gods for Cape of Storms, for the laming potential on the Huntables, or potentially even for Kawasan, and then just leaving Incas for whichever of those. And then indeed Saracens for Natsukotra. Other side, it looks like we will have some interesting second civ here, for Tempo at least. Burgundians, Burmese, Tatars, Malians remaining, none of these are amazing island civs, even for landing. Obviously, you can use whatever you want for landing, but still.
Yeah, I think looking at the drafts, actually, yeah. So we're going to see probably Portuguese in pool 1 for Tempo if it is islands, and then some kind of... Yeah, what civ? Maybe Burmese? I mean, I don't actually know what Burmese's water texture is like. I'm going to have to check that one. I mean, they're the only one that has Nico bonus other than Marlians, but you might want to save Marlians for a map like Cape of Storms, right? Or Kawasan, where they're kind of more suited to like the kind of open, aggressive hybrid maps rather than an islands game.
Burmese have an okay war trajectory, they're just missing Shipwright, but they have Galleon and Bracer. They're missing Fast Fire and Heavy Demo as well, which obviously hurts, but I think post-Imp, if you pick a landing civ, then what you want is that maybe you need to go back on water in post-Imp, and that's probably a territory for fully upgraded Galleons. So, from that perspective, Burmese are workable, but obviously not ideal.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just think all of those pool 2 civs are just super awkward, except for Marlians. But like I already said, like Marlians, you probably want to save those for some of the more suitable maps. I guess you can kind of say the same for Aftermath as well. What are Inca's water tech tree like? Do they have a good water tech tree, or
Uh,
is it average?
Incas actually have a pretty decent dock tech tree, believe it or not. They're missing cannon galleons, obviously, but they
Yeah.
only miss heavy demos. Everything else, Incas have. So, fast fires, galleons, shipwright, dry dock, that is a very, very decent water tech tree for them. But it looks like we're not going to Team Islands, we're going to not Socotra.
Oh.
And MBL and Nikov will be picking Aztecs and Goths. I feel like this is the time where MBL is going to channel the inner lamer in him, and Nikov is going to just call for the arena clown that's sleeping within him. Oh man.
That's super exciting. I wonder if we'll see. I know Arawa with Modri did a lot of monk play, like Wall FC monk. Do you think we'll see something similar from Aztecs?
I think that's definitely something to consider. Other side is Burmese Ethiopians, so Burmese is definitely one of the better civs to defend against the Monk Rush with. Cheaper Monk techs mean that they can get to like Sanctity and Atonement very early on, so they could defend against the Aztec Monk push here. One thing is sure, if MBL and Nikov end up winning this with a bunch of Aztec Monks, everybody will be asking MBL why is he banning Arena in the future.
That is a very good point. We know MBL loves his monks and he loves his arena, that's for sure. Yeah, so I guess, do you think the Goth was so they can get Huskars to counter the Ethiopians? And then I guess, does Aztec really counter Burmese? I mean, Burmese just have really cheap monk techs as well, right? So it's kind of tricky.
Indeed. Still, we will have to pay attention to the early game of this one because MBL is 100% sure we're going for the lame. So we will jump into not Socotra. We will have MBL and Nikov on the south in red and yellow, and on the north we'll have Hera and Leary as Burmese, and the Ethiopians in blue and green. And there's the Vil from MBL.
Of course.
This is 35 seconds into the game and MBL is already sending the Vil.
Okay, it's not just MBL, and Nikov is getting Loom, and he's sending a villager of his own as well. So they're both going for it, man. They are both ready to lame all the resources of their opponents.
So it looks like MBL is going to land the first hit on Leary's scout, but Leary answered it once, so the scout HPs are the same. And this is why we love MBL here. He is coming in with the Vil, although he might actually miss out on the first elephant. And the second elephant is very far away from that Vil, so this might be the most underwhelming lame that MBL has had.
Yeah, on the other side as well, Nikov also missed out on the elephant, but I think at the very least you should be able to kill all the deer, right? Even
exactly.
If you...
And he's got an eagle here, which is better than a Dark Age Scout, so from that perspective, he's killing some of the deer here, and MBL wants to do the exact same thing. Still, the deer is so close to the TC that you can just send out Vils to pick those up. And for now, MBL is still looking for something to lame here, and now we'll take the fight against the Scout of Leary.
Honestly, I think Tempo reacted really well to this. Like, that villager from MBL should go down now it's being chased by 3 villagers. I guess that's quite annoying, but okay, no. I guess Leary's just going to build the lumber camp. Oh, okay, no, so MBL will still have to lame a lot of deer, which is actually quite nice.
Yeah, and MBL sees the elephant. This is the moment to shine for him.
I think it's just too close to the town center, though. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, I feel like, especially being chased by Vales and Scouts, he probably doesn't want to risk that, although he's got, so he can shoot that elephant very fast. And that could be a difference maker. Still, it looks like that Vil might be going down here from MBL because he's gonna get blocked overall, so now he's just going to try to trade off HP against the opponent's Scout here.
Yep, bit of a sloppy Dark Age from MBL at home, which is not too surprising considering everything that's going on at the front of Leary's base. He's taking a ball with 1 villager, which... did
Restart.
They really?
It's a restart. You have 1 restart for the games, and it is MBL and Nikov calling the restart. And the reason why is because they were unsuccessful laming.
Yep. That makes sense. Do you think they'll go for the lame again, or are they just going to cut their losses and be like, okay, let's play standard now?
They will go for the lame again.
Okay. Oh, God. I feel like they're going to, like, Hera and Leary should know that's coming now, though. Like, they'll be prepared this time.
Exactly. They should be, although I feel like they were prepared in the first game as well.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't exactly caught off by it, but they still managed to at least get quite a few deers lamed. I think it was just that, like, the Dark Age from Nikov and MBL was quite sloppy, like I said, with that elephant just rotting with only one villager taking it. So yeah, I guess they just felt like they didn't do enough damage, they didn't justify the lame, and yeah, time to restart.
And we will get back to not Socotra in about 30 seconds. So once again, I guess we will have MBL Nikov attempting a lame again, but I think now that Lear and Hera knows that it is happening, then they will bring those elephants in even faster.
Yeah, that's true. They'll be like ready with their scouts. They'll be ready with villagers. I mean, I guess MBL could still go for it because of how strong, like, you know, that Goth early loom is. But I feel like Nico probably won't commit as heavily as he did last game, because getting loom like top 3 is pretty damaging for your economy.
Exactly. We will jump back into not Socotra. And after a restart, we will have MBL with Gots in the red on the right side. North of him is going to be Aztecs for Nikov in yellow. And we'll have Leary as green Ethiopians and Hera as Burmese in blue on the left side. So this time, it looks like MBL is not going to send the wheel forward, or at least not the third wheel that he did before.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? I think they realized, like, the food is quite close to the town center, right? So it's quite a big risk, especially when you're probably going to lose one villager that early. Like, maybe it's just not worth it at that point. Just kind of play standard. Maybe that's better. One question I do have for you now is that, like, obviously the Aranbai have been nerfed a little bit. So, like, how do Huskarls do against Aranbai now? Do they perform a little bit better than they used to?
I think they do, but it doesn't matter for this map because this map has absolutely 0 stone on it. You start with
Oh, that's
20
a great
stone.
point. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
this is a map where gods are almost exclusively reasonable for laming. Everything other than that is just a dream for them. So, if this game goes very late game, which is very unlikely because this is just a so tight map, then gods will have a very limited tech tree to work with unless they buy a castle, which is obviously awfully expensive.
Yeah, so what is MBL going to do then? What is the play with Goths? You obviously can't go for Huskars. I mean, just go Knights, I guess, to support the monks, or...
It's hard to say. It could be an early drush from him to, you know, try and be aggressive. Maybe even Men-at-Arms opening. With Aztecs having the extra gold at the beginning, Men-at-Arms opening is definitely viable. And just try to make sure that we have either a Men-at-Arms opening from Nikov, and then just let MBL go into Fast Castle Knights, or probably the more likely scenario is that we see the cheaper infantry from Goths, and MBL will be aggressive, and Nikov goes into Castle Age for a Monk and Siege push.
Yeah, one thing that's really interesting is that MBL and Nikov teamed up their scouts, and Nikov is stealing a boar from Hera with his eagle. And I think he's going to send that to MBL's TC. So really nice teamwork. They went for the lame together. And I think they're choosing Nikov's scout because obviously he can regenerate the HP, and it's obviously a little bit easier to lure the boar.
This
so
time,
nice play here. Yeah.
This time, this lane is actually better than what it used to be before the restart. And look at the timing of this lane. This is probably what the game plan was for AM. They were like, okay, if we just lame Tempo, Tempo can call a restart. But if we do that lame after the 4-minute mark, Tempo can't call a restart, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. That lame started at like 4 minutes, 5 seconds or so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They probably waited. Yeah, that's nice. Because if they lamed earlier than that, they just, they call the restart and then we have another game. But because they waited, now Hera is... I mean, is this it's not that huge of a deficit, right? I mean, I guess maybe it is. It depends how MBO uses it, right? Like, if they start walling now and go fast castle, it could be a huge bonus to have the extra 300 and... how much is it? 400 food, actually. Yeah, it's a lot of food.
It is. It is a lot more food. And Hera is pushing in the air. Hera is pushing in the air to MBL. Oh, my lord. Oh, my lord.
Oh, MBO didn't kill it, though.
So, indeed, there is, that friendly rivalry between these two teams, so to say, with Hera and Leary being teammates of MBL and Nikov in the past.
Yeah, it is definitely a little bit confusing to get their names correct, obviously, because they've all been Aftermath for a long time. Obviously now, Leary and Hera have been signed to Tempo, but they still like in 4v4 team games they still play together, right? So it's a little bit confusing. But
So, we are gonna have Volos coming in here for Nikov, and he is going for a Barracks. So we will see if he ends up going for a Man-at-Arms play, because it kind of feels like a Man-at-Arms timing. We are not going to have a fast castle here. In fact, this might be a super aggressive feudal age here from both teams, because none of them are really voling that much.
yeah, I guess you're right. Both teams look comfortable to. I guess Leary is still building villages though, so Leary could be going for fast castle. It's difficult to say because obviously Ethiopians are one of those cities you don't really need that many villagers to go fast castle with them because they get the 100 food, 100 gold every time they get to to another age. Yeah, it looks like okay. So it looks like Leary will be fast castling then. So do you think Nikov will be able to break this fast castle? With these
It's hard to say. I don't think so, because even though it seems like it's a double Man-at-Arms play from Aftermath, I feel like Leary's walls are very nicely built and they are tight, so it would be pretty hard to get through these without Archer or tower support. And there is gonna be no towers here, that's guaranteed, and Hera traps Sneakov Scout here. Oh my lord.
Oh my god. Wow.
Just Hera things.
Yeah, that's actually quite big, because again, like that scout could be really useful in those men-at-arms doing damage to Leary, right? Like it's really nice to have that like kind of extra unit. Well, really nice from MBL though. He's blocking that villager. Oh, it doesn't look like it's gonna go down though.
It won't. And still, that's doing some damage to Hera. And Hera should have no trouble getting up to Castle Age here, though. Like, his resources are looking pretty decent. He loses his scout. And at this point, I wonder what MBL can do with those Metams, because the gold mines, they're so close to the TC that it is just insanely hard to push them. Hera with the quick walls once again to prevent those Metams from breaking in.
Yeah, that was really nice from Hera. I thought that was going to be an absolute disaster for him, because if he didn't get that house up to the north, then all of those men-at-arms could get in. And if they get in like around the back, like that is really tricky for Hera to deal with. It doesn't look like he's still going to lose a Ville though. So
he will. And that is definitely not ideal. On the other hand, it's not the end of the world either, and Leary is also going for a fast castle, something we haven't thought about. And at this point, the double fast castle seems to pay off, because MBL and Nikov will be very much delayed into Castle Age.
Yeah, well, it depends how much economic damage they take, right? Will they both? Yeah, like if you look at Hero's economy, he can't afford to fast castle. Like missing that ball was really big for him. Actually, he's only on 500 food. And yeah, he's not even built his buildings yet. Is he built a blacksmith? No, he's only just building his barracks now. So like, yeah. So Hero can't fast castle. Like at least not to a decent timing. And let's have a look at Leary. Yeah, Leary should be able to pull off the fast castle. But he's also lacking the buildings as well, so...
It's tricky. He's up against Gothic men-at-arms, and they take down those buildings really fast, and now there is Archer support to prevent the second layering. Still, Leary is supposed to be able to hold this, but he's gonna have some scary moments here before he should be able to get up to castle. He actually grabs Wheelbarrow here, so it's not a super fast castle, it's more like a little bit of a slower type, slightly stronger eco overall for him.
That is so strange. Why on earth would Leary get Wheelbarrow there? Was he housed or something?
It's possible, because he did lose some houses on the front. So, the men-at-arms were taking down houses, it is very possible that he was housed, and that's why he grabbed the Wheelbarrow upgrade.
I mean, this is looking really bad for Tempo, man. I mean, I guess Leary is up to cast stage, which is nice. But like, if you look at Hero's economy, like, they're not going to be able to stop these guys getting in, right? And like, what does like Hero do to defend this? I guess he builds more walls, but it feels like Hero's just gonna be kind of stuck in cast stage for a little while.
Exactly. It's actually very tricky, because if Hera is given like 2 minutes of peace, he's gonna be all good. But it's a double men-at-arms archers, and it seems like AM just wants to play 2 separate 1v1s here, and the Gothic men-at-arms eat their way through walls very easily.
Yeah, I think one thing that the Aftermath, not Aftermath, sorry, Tempo have going for them is the fact that Leary is going Castle Age. And if you give Leary like 5 Ethiopian crossbowmen, I think he could get a lot done with that, right? But it just feels like like Hero's forced to buy a tower. Like it just feels like Hero's economy is in such a bad state right now.
Exactly, and buying that tower is super expensive because you start with 20 stone, you have to buy 200 to be able to make a defensive tower. Still, I feel like it is just Hera absorbing the damage, and soon Lyra will start pushing things with the Ethiopian crossbows. Although he doesn't have amazing numbers, it's only one range. But still, MBL, for example, is not Volt, so even 3 Ethiopian crossbows can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, I think as well that like Leary got wheelbarrow, right? And he's down 8 vills to his opponents. So like I really do not think wheelbarrow was worth that. He must have just felt like he was going to be housed for ages. Otherwise, I can't see why he'd really get it. Because again, like having 8 vills working is a huge difference. That's a lot of resources. Like 7 farms doesn't really justify getting wheelbarrow.
Hera not reacting to the men-at-arms that are pushing the right side of his base just yet, and that could be MBL's way into Hera's base. Hera trying to buy himself up, but this might be an underreaction here from him, although I don't know how much of his eco will be exposed to this with that defensive tower being up on the gold and the wood. That's a beautiful defensive tower.
Yeah, that's a great defensive tower. Again, so Hero will be able to get Castle Age soon when he has the gold. Oh, is MBL going to dive that tower?
If he does,
Oh,
Hera, man. He really feels like he has finally warmed up here, because these are the hero level quick walls that we're used to seeing. AM will just wall through the entire map now with houses to prevent Leary from breaking in, and you did mention that Leary's eco isn't necessarily amazing in comparison to Nikov, who has a much stronger eco once he gets up to Castle Age, especially with Aztecs. And the fact that his eco was stretched way less thin than Lyra's eco was.
Yeah, I mean, Leary does have the advantage of being Ethiopian, so like again, like the it's a little bit less punishing if you do take a little bit of damage, like kind of in feud late, just because you get the extra food, which kind of buys you a bit more time to get the techs. But yeah, so Leary's like attack here with this Mangano is quite dangerous. I think if you're in Nico's position, you just kind of wait for Castle Age and then build your own Mangano and just kind of be happy with the damage that you've done, or what's the play here, do you think?
That is rough for Nikov, because holding on for 2 minutes against a Mangano push like this is going to be really rough, and he could be losing his archer range here. I think the TC will help hold this one. I don't think he will suffer from a lot of damage, but holding this one for 2 minutes will be insanely tough. After that, he can just go for his own Manganos.
Yeah, the problem as well, he's only got one. Okay, he's building a second archery range in the back, so yeah, he wouldn't have actually been able to get the crossbowman upgrade if he didn't rebuild that second archery range. Yeah, I mean, siege pushing Aztecs. I mean, is monks an option here for Nikov? Do you think, or is that
I
not
don't
worth
think
it
so.
against the crossbows?
I feel like for a player like Leary will have a good enough unit control to just snap down the monks before diving in with the Manganos. And getting redemption monks is a very, very expensive thing for Nikov on this situation.
Yeah, this situation for Nikov is looking really tricky as well. The 2 Manganos on his TC already, like having to repair, like TCs cost don't they cost double the resources to repair as a normal building? So like you really don't want to be repairing the TC. Like he just has to, because otherwise he might get his Castle Age denied. And like he's got to build a siege workshop straight away, right? Like this is humongous pressure from Leary. And this is what we're talking about, right? Like, Leary having a faster castle time can translate, like, that castle time into a lot of damage, which is what he's doing now.
And Hera is also up with knights, which is something to point out. Although, in terms of knight numbers, he doesn't have a great amount of them, and he's missing a lot of upgrades in comparison to MBL, who's gonna have a decent amount of crossbows to work with.
Oh,
Nikov juking the Mangano. He's taking the fight, though. Oh, that was so good. He jumped back into the TC. Now the crossbows MBL coming in, he needs to be careful not to lose those to the Manganos. Oh. And Nikov punishes Hera for that earlier trap. He's going to trap those knights in there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful trap from Nikov.
That
is a great trap.
That was a beautiful trap indeed. Mangano coming out here for MBL now, and he's gonna have the cheap god experiment to help out against the knights, as Hera's knights here on the right side will be going down. Crossbows in for Nikov as well. So
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say that Siege Workshop from MBL is about to go down, which is actually quite tricky. If that goes down, like, how do you really stop Nico from getting pushed, right?
yeah, Nikov has his own siege workshop, but obviously that doesn't help that much, and Hero might find a way outside of that maze here, breaking through the palisade. MBL did lose his siege workshop, he's forced to rebuild another one. In terms of like combined arms, it is a better composition for Tempo. Like they have the classical Knights plus Archer comp, but maybe on this map that's not as important as it is on other maps.
Yeah, that's true. So we do see monks from. Okay, so we see 4 monks from Nikov. That's super interesting. I think it does make a little bit of sense because Leary only has how many crossbowmen? He's only got like 10 to 15 crossbowmen, right?
Yeah, 15.
Oh, he's got
16.
16. Yeah, yeah. And if you get all the upgrades on the monks, then they have so much HP that like if you start converting a few crossbowmen, they can't one-shot you anymore.
Now, MBL is gonna get pushed by a lot of knights here. Hero is up to 12 knights, and the angle of attack will shift. And while Nikov is fully evolved, MBL isn't. MBL's wide open on the left side, so he's gonna have some tough moments against those knights running into their eco.
Yeah, what is MBL's follow-up to this, do you think? Like, he doesn't really... He's just building pikes, building crossbows. Like, it doesn't really feel like that's the most convincing army composition to me.
Mangano was now pushing up here for Nikov, and as you said, there's going to be monks. Right now, only one upgrade on them, and that's not Sanctity. So this is still fairly easy for Leary's crossbows to pick off. It's worth pointing out that MBL buys a second town center for himself, so that could be a massive eco advantage on a map where you don't have mineable stone or an easy chance to add TCs. Big fight here for Hero though with +2 knights, and he takes down the Manganos.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that second TC, honestly, leader, because like, I mean, they're already losing so much momentum in the game. Like, well, what is a TC going to achieve here? It's just going to have you like invest more resources into your economy, right? And the problem isn't the economy of this game. The problem is that they're just losing the army war, right? Like, it just kind of feels like, with the game with the way the game kind of transitioned, it felt like the problem the Aftermath had is that they just kind of chose a comp that was so kind of rigid, right? Like, you can see this game how easy it is to play with Knight and Crossbow, and Hera and Leary just kind of executed nicely, whereas it's really hard to play double Crossbow, right? Like even MBL like teched into pikemen. Like, what are the pikemen really gonna do against the knights anyway? If you only have 4 of them, and like, what are they gonna do when they've got 20 crossbows behind the knights anyway? Like,
and what are you gonna do when Leary is imping? And obviously, this is definitely a map where you don't necessarily have to expand your eco that much, and it's more of the aggressive style map. And Tempo is using their current military advantage very well. They destroyed the blacksmith from Nikov before they destroyed multiple siege workshops, and they just have all the freedom to go into Imperial with Leary's crossbows unless he loses them to the Manganos.
yeah, and it feels like Nikov just doesn't have the monk numbers really, or the upgrades on them. Like, he doesn't have Sanctity yet. And he's only got Redemption, like you said, so it kind of feels it's a bit underwhelming, honestly, with Aztecs. You kind of need a few more upgrades to start getting them to be really dangerous.
Now that's a lot of monks coming in here for Nikov, so Hera's gotta be careful not to lose his knights, but the crossbows are... Oh! That's one way to get yourself back into this game. As those monks are still very low HP, only 35, it's not even Sanctity, and that's a big misplay from Nikov. That's a huge misplay from Nikov. He's throwing away all those monks, and those were his only chance to stop the knights from Hera. And yeah, Leary lost a couple of crossbows here, but at this point, even though AM has the eco lead technically, it's a flood of knights that they have no tools of stopping.
Yeah, this is a super clean game from Leary. Hero did a great job as well, by the way. I think you should give him a little bit of props as well, or we should, sorry, because he was under a lot of pressure, and like he's played this kind of flawlessly from like cast stage onwards, just like really clean synergy with his teammate. And now like it kind of feels like when Leary gets imp, what can you really do against that bracer timing? Like obviously MBL's, I think he's quite far away from getting a castle up to get. Yeah, he can't afford a castle. He can't afford to buy a castle. So yeah, this is looking pretty rough for Aftermath.
That is the only town center that Nikov has, and we did mention that it's insanely hard to rebuild TCs, and I already see MBL's name crossed out. So the double crossbow play doesn't work out here for Aftermath, and Tempo once again showing why they are probably the favorites to win this tournament. Very clean game once again, and they're one game away from getting into the grand finals here. Clean, aggressive gameplay, and, well, that one game, though, will be on Team Islands.
Yeah, the last game will be Team Islands. Yeah, I mean, well played from Tempo there. Really clean game. I was a bit. I wouldn't say I was skeptical of Leary in early card stage. I was just a bit confused about the whole Wilbury thing, but I guess he probably just was housed. But he played that pretty clean. He put so much pressure on Nikov that they kind of snowballed the game a little bit and were able to capitalize, especially when they had a better army composition. So yeah, fair play to Tempo there. They played that run really well.
So we will have game number 5 coming in here, and that is the home map, or the final home map of Aftermath. If they want to have a shot at the series, they need to win their home map and then take away 2 home maps from Tempo. One of those home maps include Cape of Storms, which is possibly the strongest map of Tempo Storm. MBL and Nico were in the finals of TwoPools 1. There's a chance they won't make it in the second.
Yeah, it's looking pretty rough. Honestly, I mean, they still have some quite good civs left. If you actually look at the draft, so like, but even then, even though they have some nice civs, I mean, Lithuanians are going to be so good on Cape of Storms. I think maybe on Kawasan, you could maybe argue that Japanese will be better with a civ like. I'm not even sure what would you pick on some of these maps. I guess we just have to focus on Team Islands because that's the next map. We're probably going to see Vikings, I guess, with. Well, if you're in Aftermath's position right now, what would your island civs be right now?
Probably Vikings and Sicilians. Because for landing, I think Incas are not necessarily viable. Saracens, I feel like Sicilians could be something. Although you could always think about some Saracen masterpieces with market usage as well.
Yeah, Saracens maybe. Like again, Saracens you can do some nice forward stuff, and then you obviously have good galleys anyway with the faster firing rate. So at least Saracens have some options. Yeah, I think it could be. I think you're probably right. We'll probably see Vikings, Sicilians, but it could be either Saracens or Incas as well. It depends what they want to play. Or what they feel like is strongest. I mean, the question is like if we're looking at Tempo's civs here, like their second pool is not really amazing for islands. I'm not sure what Burgundian's texture is like for water. I have to have a look at that.
Burgundians on water, that would be an experience for sure. Burgundians are kind of underwhelming. Like they have Galleon with Bracer and even fast fires, but no dry dock, no shipwright feels like a no to me. To be honest.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know. Yeah, what about Tatters? I mean, do they have any decent dock techs?
At least they do have dry dock, so it's slightly better. But pretty much the same thing as Burgundians, just having dry dock available. And lastly, Malians will lack Bracer. So whatever Tempo selects here, they will have a problem if this game goes very long when it comes to water fights.
Yeah, that is true, but they also have Portuguese as well, so if it goes very long, they might be able to use the Feitoria to their advantage.
That's always an option, although I think that in 2v2 trade could be more important. It's more about, I think if your landing goes wrong, let's say with Burgundians or Tatars, then you will probably just end up slinging the Portuguese player to Galleons or Caravels.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you're right. Probably Portuguese are going to be used for the Caravels. It just feels like Aftermath civs are probably a little bit better for islands. But I guess we'll see how they play out, because I feel like if you have something like Vikings plus even Sicilians, you have more options, right? Like it feels like what Portuguese plus Tatars or Burgundians just really not going to get the job done. But I mean, there's always potential with landings, and there's always potential to outplay it on islands anyway. So it'll be super interesting to see how Tempo play it.
Indeed. Vikings will definitely have a tough time against Portuguese, especially once we get into like the late game stage. So AM has to be playing aggressive. We definitely expect a landing from MBL, and he's one of the most disruptive players with landings, and that's something to pay attention for. So just like Lix is able to disrupt both players with landing, MBL is capable of doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point, yeah.
And we will have, when the spectator countdown goes down, a Vikings and Saracens matchup versus Portuguese and Malians. Some surprises over here, some expected civs. What are your thoughts?
Oh wait, sorry, Saracens and
Vikings versus Portuguese and Malians.
Okay, fair enough. I guess Tempo are just comfortable playing Tatars and Burgundians on the other maps then, yeah. I mean, it makes sense because Malians are a great landing zone. I was just a little bit skeptical because I think Malians would also be really good on like Cape of Storms and Kawasan as well. But I think they're happy to pick on islands. So yeah, I guess we'll see the Malian player probably land. And I guess the Portuguese player will go for like regular water, or at least it would make more sense to do that. Saracens is definitely an interesting pick though. Do you think we'll see Saracens land?
It's definitely possible, but that is sort of a flexibility here. Saracens with the landing can always do damage with the archer bonus against walls, which makes it harder to defend. They can even use the market to their advantage, so they can get an early castage and go for like a siege push early on. On the other hand, you could just try to play double water as well, and once again use the Saracen market to your advantage. So I think the flexibility is on the side of Saracens, although Malians is probably more general purpose, or better general purpose civ in basically up until early Imperial.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Malians, you're gonna have a quite clean transition, right? Like to everything, just because like all your buildings are cost cheaper, cost less wood. I think honestly, like in terms of civs, it feels like it's quite even. Especially with Tempo going for their best water civ in Malians. So this should be a really good game here.
And we will have Team Islands coming in here. It is the tournament life on the line for Aftermath. They are going to play Team Islands here with Vikings and Saracens versus Portuguese and Malians. For Leary and Hera, Leary will have the green color on the right side. That is his favorite color, actually, to play. And same thing for Hera in blue. So both of them playing with colors that they love to play with. Nikov is going to be yellow. Vikings on the right side at the bottom of the screen. And to the left of him is going to be MBL in red.
Yep. Okay, so we've already talked a bit about the matchup. I guess, are we almost certainly going to see Hera go forward here then? With Malians?
It's not necessarily guaranteed because Malians is definitely good as an aggressive water civilization with fire galleys. On the other hand, I feel like the initiative is in the hands of, or it should be in the hands of Tempo Storm, because in Imperial, their fleet is probably going to be inferior to Saracens and Vikings combined will be better than Portuguese and Malians, most likely.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if we'll see a fast castle from Nikov, and maybe he'll go for a quick longboat transition. I mean, is that a bit risky though on Team Islands? Do you think if he were to go for fast castle, just in case they get landed?
I think it's too risky, especially against Portuguese, because even if you get a couple of longboats out, the Portuguese will always have the advantage of being able to respond to that with caravels nicely. Although in low numbers, the longboats win. But I feel like trying to build your strategy on longboats when you are up against Portuguese is probably not the best idea.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe Nikov will just side dock and go for galleys, or maybe they will front dock and go for galleys. And it'll be really interesting to see how both teams try and play this.
It looks like we will have 4 on wood for MBL, even 5. So no surprising shenanigans just yet. Oftentimes when you go for a landing, you just go for like 3 or wood or so. Other side, we have 4 on wood as well for Nikov, so that should be a fairly standard plan. It looks like he's going for a front dock.
Yeah, it looks like MBL's Xing the front as well, so both players are going to go quite aggressive with their docks here. Do you think MBL will just go for fire ships, or do you think he'll also go for galleys?
It's hard to say. I feel like with Saracens, you prefer to go for galleys. On the other hand, double galley play could be dangerous if Hera goes for an aggressive fire galley play, although it is a side dock from Hera, which means that he will probably see galleys from him. And front dock for Leary, which might end up being fire galleys after all.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see Leary go for fire galleys. Maybe Hero will. Do you think Hero will build a transport ship at some point from this stock? It feels like he's kind of building the stock off to the side a little bit. I guess it'll be interesting to see if he does go for that landing. Okay, so both Aftermath players have docked to the front. Does that kind of mean? Do you think they'll both just play water here and be happy to like wall themselves and just not really focus on the land as much, or do you think like one of them will end up docking going forward?
It's hard to say because we have seen that after Aftermath went for the restart flaming, they just went for a standard play. And I think most people would expect MBL to land. So maybe AM will try to pull a surprise and just go for a standard water play. Saracens could indicate that as well. And MBL's walling up. So it kind of feels like he wants to go for water here. Maybe even use the Saracen market for an early Castle Age. And then try to snowball the game with fire ships.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's gone to the point where like landing on islands is kind of standard now. So like, it would be like kind of against the meta to not. Okay, so sorry to interrupt my train of thought, but we are seeing a transport ship from Hera. So Hera will definitely be landing. It makes sense with Marlians, right? Rather than going for water. So I guess the question is now, what does MBL do in response? So MBL is going 20 pop up. I'm just pulling. I guess it looks like MBL is just, like you said, just happy to go for water. I mean, he's not sending another villager forward.
It seems like it, and the main question right now is that Nikov is pretty much wide open, so landing from Hera could definitely cause a lot of problems. Here comes the transport, and he's gonna have 2 wheels and a scout inside, as it is the standard landing play. And
wait,
for Leary,
is that transport stuck?
No way!
Is that
No way! He just...
Oh!
That could be, although I think if the wheel moves away, you can actually free it up. It's tricky because you built it into a position where there is like a little pond in between the land and the dock. And Hera has to make a new transport. Hera has to make a new transport, man.
Oh. He's making a new transport. Oh, that's a disaster.
It looks like we do have a pause here.
Yeah, it looks like Leary disconnected.
Oh, we have a Leary drop. Still, this is not actually a bug. This is, same thing if you place your lumber camp or your, let's say, barracks right next to a forest, your units might spawn on the side where you're closer to the forest and they get trapped. Same thing here.
Yep. And that's just, I guess it's a bit unlucky. It's also a bit sloppy from Hera.
Still, it looks like we'll have Leary disconnecting, and that means that we will have a restore.
Yep. So one important thing to point out as well before we restore is that MBO is going for a forward, but I mean MBO only built 1 fishing ship, so I'm not really sure what his build was. Usually when you go forward, like you want kind of 2 or 3 at least. Like I mean, I guess Hero built 2. But also, he has to build another transport ship, obviously, so like he's already compromised. Yeah, not really the most standard play from both teams at the moment, I think.
Not at all. Obviously, Hera's landing is going to be hurt very badly by the fact that that is a trapped transport. But still, luckily he's Malian, so he can save a bit on the building. So that Malian's bonus will actually come in clutch here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Without Marlians, that might have been a little bit more tricky.
So we will have a save and restore here in a matter of moments. So Hera's gonna land. MBL is fully void. And it seems like MBL wants to play water, but there has to be something more behind that with Saracens. Because if you just go for like standard water play for Saracens, that kind of feels like, a bit of a waste. You need to use that Saracen market bonus, otherwise your civ on water is just very underwhelming.
What Saracen, sorry? I mean, you could use that. The thing is, you can use you can either use their galleys, right, which are really strong, or you can use the market bonus to get a stronger water timing. So like you can still use Saracens on water. Like they're not terrible. Like they still have a decent eco bonus to get themselves up to cast stage quickly, and that's kind of what really matters with Saracens. Oh, sorry, not with Saracens, but on water maps generally. Like it's all about a lot of the time getting to your timings a little bit faster. Yeah, I do see what you mean. Like especially with Vikings on the team, like Saracens are it's kind of a bit more awkward because you can't just go straight for the galleys. You do kind of have to do the landing stuff.
Now, here is the fun part. If you think about that, a transport ship costs 125 wood. Hera has to make a new transport, and that delays his landing, right? But he's
Yep.
Malians, and Malian docks cost about 132 wood, I believe. Would it have been better for Hera to just delete that dock and let the transport run and rebuild that dock? Because the difference is like 5 or 6 wood overall, but that saves a lot of time for Hera.
That's a good point. I mean, the one problem that I can see with that is that you're losing also food because you have 2 fishing boats working. So I think you could argue it either way. Probably, I would say I would rebuild the transport ship because I'm more worried about like villager production and like my car stage time than I am about like the wood that I've or the time that I potentially lost. I'm not really too sure though. I think it doesn't really matter too much.
So we're gonna have, in a minute, we will be able to jump back into the game, and Hera's gonna go for landing. The real question is if Nikov is going to be walled in time, because he didn't really have a lot of walls. In fact, he had very, very little walls overall.
He was starting to build them though. I think again also because Hero's transport is delayed. I think he should be fine to get the walls up in time. Also, Nikov is just naturally further away from where Hero's landing is going to be anyway. So I think Nikov should be okay if he does, get on with the walling, and actually sends a couple of villagers to get those palisades built.
So we are gonna have game number 5 continuing once again. So it looks like we have a double water play from our AM team. It is in the hands of Hera to disrupt them though, because if he's unable to disrupt both players, then Lear is going to have a hard time walling or winning water.
Well, I think MBL built a transport ship, so it's going to be MBL going forward, and I guess it'll be Leary versus Nikov on the water. Either that or MBL is just Oh wait,
What?
did they just restart?
That's awkward.
Yeah, that is awkward. Can they not save? Or you only disconnected? There must be a reason behind it.
That is definitely an awkward moment. We'll have to ask Robo what's up with this, because it seems like it is a new game. And that raises quite a lot of questions overall, but Robo will probably answer some in a moment.
Yeah. Okay, so new game, fresh start. We can just forget what we thought about last game. It doesn't matter. The trap transport ship doesn't matter. We can move on to this one.
Alright. So, it is a new game. Luckily for them, like, this is the moment where it didn't really matter that much. It helps Hera a little bit, freeing up that transport. But other than that, basically, there was no damage sustained on either side. And we will have, this time, MBL and Nikov on the left side with yellow Vikings and red Saracens. And on the other side, we'll have Leary in Portuguese in green and Hera in blue as Malians.
Yeah. So do you think we'll see the same kind of general strategy from both teams? Just both MBL and Hero being the players to go forward on both teams, and then Nikov and Leary to play the water?
So,
or do you think? Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
What was your question?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I was just going to say, do you think they'll play the same way that they played last game, the same strategy? Just, or are they going to change it up?
I think they won't change it up because at this point, they didn't really reveal their strategies overall. So I feel like we could see something very, very similar.
That being said, MBL is already going to the back to dock instead of the front. So I think this is already a little bit different. I wonder if that's because of the way the map is spawned. That's quite okay. So instead, last time MBL front docked, this time he's back docking, and this time Nikov is front docking. But they restarted, I guess.
Did they? What is happening here?
Not too sure. I guess they called a restart.
Tempo called a restart indeed. Feels bad, man. Luckily for us, there is no more restarts.
Yeah, that's the last one.
I wonder if Hera just crashed or so. Nope, villager count seemed to be alright. Here's the question,
Yeah.
why was a restart called here, though? Because there is nothing that justifies that.
Why was it? That's a great question. Let me try and... So Hero called the restart. I have no idea. I don't have any answers for you. Maybe he doesn't like his map?
It's hard to say. Like, the map itself is, I think Leary's map is pretty bad. His gold mine is very much off.
Yeah, Leary's map is really bad, you're right. I wonder if they know about that. I can't see their scouting, but it would make sense if they just saw Leary's map. Like, obviously they have Portuguese as well, so they can see each other's like POV. So maybe they're just like, yeah, our maps are just too bad. It's hard to say.
So now there is no more restarts left, and if the Age of Empires gods actually will to save us from the crashes, then we will probably have some games here.
Yeah, there's been a lot of technical difficulties this set. A lot of crashing. It's strange though because they played differently this game. Like at least Aftermath did. I don't know what prompted them to change their strategy. Like MBL like backdocked instead of front docked. Like I don't know why. Like why would you change that? Maybe they thought it's just strange, honestly. Oh, Leary didn't find his boar apparently.
We also would like to highlight that the reason why they even had to, you know, start this game again is because they couldn't actually restore the game that crashed for Leary. So...
Right, okay.
Yeah, obviously that is the bigger issue. It's one thing that, you know, there was a restart here for Tempo. The bigger deal is indeed just a crash that forced the complete replay.
Yeah, I think that needs to be worked on a little bit, honestly. Like, I feel like crashing is okay. Well, it's not okay, obviously you don't want the game to crash. Like, crashes happen, right? The problem is, like, if you get to a point where the game is crashing and you can't restore, that is actually a competitive problem, right? Like, it's not something that should really be happening. Like, you should always be able to restore crash games. Maybe that's something that should be brought up to the dev team. I'm sure that maybe they know about it. But, like at least this tournament already, that's like what, 2 games where like potentially like obviously it's not the biggest deal for the last game, but like maybe that is, you know, going to affect outcomes you don't actually know.
So it is like we didn't have a single game crash, I think, throughout the entire tournament. It looks like the AoE gods are just going to bring every crash that was possible to be had in the final semifinals.
Yep. It wasn't. Yeah. No, okay. Well, okay. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to get into this new game soon, and like you said, no more restarts. Fingers crossed, no more crashes, and we can actually, you know, get on with the series.
So, Team Islands, attempt number 3, right?
Yep, attempt number 3.
Well, better late than never. So, it is gonna be still match point for Tempo here. Let's see if they can close this set out after the restarts and the crashes. And we have Team Islands coming in here, so the wait is over. It is time. Now we can just pray to the AoE gods about no more crashes.
Fingers crossed. Okay, hopefully, yeah, hopefully we get a nice clean end to the series. I mean, obviously this might not be the last game, but yeah, for the next games.
So we will have, once again, Viking Saracens and Portuguese Malians here, and the real question now is where the players will drop their docks. Because,
Yeah, well,
like,
I think honestly, yeah, I think they're just gonna roll some dice and let that decide, man. Because I can't find any logic in as to why they're docking where. Honestly, like at least with MBL, like one game it's front, one game it's to the back. Like game one, he built one fishing boat. Like I don't know what that was. Like it's just been very strange. Like even the games that crashed have just been very strange. Like I honestly don't know what to say. Like clearly they have some interesting build orders.
alright, so here's the question. If you once again go for a landing with Hera's Malians, do you think that now we're going to see an equally aggressive play from MBL? Because MBL didn't go for like a super early transport ship. And if Hera's landing, that's probably going to be scouts. Whereas MBL is probably landing for archers, because that's what Saracens do really well.
Yeah, I mean, you could still go scouts with Saracens. But yeah, I think probably archers is better. I think, yeah, Malians, it makes kind of more sense to go for the stable line, because you want to be going for knights and castle age over... Well, you can still do archers, but I think scouts is just a little bit easier economically. I guess we'll see what MBO does, right? Like, obviously Saracens give you a lot of versatility with the economy, so he could do either. I think, like you said, archers makes more sense. Try and get a fast castle age, get some crossbows, maybe some siege on their island if possible.
So, we're gonna have... once again, left versus right, we will have Leary as a green Portuguese, Hera as blue Malians, we will have Nikov as yellow Vikings, and to the left we're gonna have MBL as red Saracens. So this time there is no more restarts available, but the map is definitely better for Leary overall. His gold mine is definitely fairly safe, although two of his other gold mines are not so well defendable. On the other hand, Hera's base is absolutely horrendous. That gold mine is very much exposed out there.
Yes, I mean that can even be ranged by war galleys and castle age. And so can I guess he has some safeguard, but yeah, if scouts or archers come into his base, I mean that's gonna be a real difficult to defend. I think Leary has also scouted his boar. So no restart this game. Yeah, he scouted both boars. So no excuses this game. Everything's, going as it should.
So, indeed. On the other side, we will have MBL's map. MBL's gold is also quite hard to protect here. Basically, all of his golds are very much open. And for Nikov, he's got a fairly well defendable base, although it's quite open. On the south, Barris could be a bit of a trouble. So, for now, let's see the dock placement, because that is the main question, really, where exactly the docks will go up for the players.
Yeah, it looks like MBO's back docking again. Just by his scouting, I mean, maybe it could be side dock, but he's scouted the back quite a bit. I don't know if that's because... Oh, he's also scouted the front as well. Yeah, it's really interesting. That villager looks like... Okay, it's going to be a side dock, I think, for MBO.
It could be, although he brings in the boar first.
Oh, he's bringing the boar.
That is a little bit of a delayed dock from him. He's already 5 on wood and brings in the boar first. Although he only has 4 on sheep, so probably the reason why he's able to do that is because he spent less villagers on food and started to go for the lumberjacks a little earlier. So his dock is still going to be faster than others because he was very heavy on wood instead of food.
Yeah, that was actually a really nice dock timing from MBO. Yeah, like you said, a little bit more on wood a little bit earlier. Helping himself out with the early ball lure as well. So, okay, side dock this time instead of... It's kind of side... It's similar to the one that Hero did in the first game, right? Like, kind of towards the side. Probably indicating that he's going to go for that landing. And Nico's going for the front dock. Okay, so that makes... I think Aftermath have adjusted their strategy a little bit. I think maybe they realized that MVL going front dock was a bit too risky. So they put him on the side. Okay, Leary's going for... Yeah, okay, so both teams are kind of playing like similar to each other, but like kind of on opposite ends. So like Hira is going for the side dock, Leary is going for the front dock. So it looks like Hira and MBL will both go for forwards, and obviously the other two will go for water. So pretty standard Islands game, it looks like.
It looks like Leary was sort of having a tough time pushing in that deer, and he killed it outside of the TC's range, or at least where it would have been confident to drop it off in terms of food. We will have MBL coming in with Loom early on, so that is definitely a landing from him, but queues up 2 more vills. I wonder why Loom comes in this early for him, because there is nothing that would really justify that unless he wants to go for a super early transport.
Yeah, you're completely right. That is so strange. Why on earth would you get Loom? I honestly don't have an answer. Maybe he's worried about wolves? Like, I can't...
Maybe he was housed, or he didn't feel like he's going to be able to finish off a house. We don't know that exactly. But definitely not ideal for him. Overall, Loom comes in as well for Nikov. Nikov is playing with the front dock, side dock for MBL. Sort of a back/side dock for Hera, who this time is going to probably have no trouble getting that transport ship out. And we'll have a front dock for Leary, everybody going into feudal, so no fast castle shenanigans whatsoever.
Yeah, so, okay, Hero's building the transport ship, makes sense. Same build as last game. He doesn't get trapped this time, so I guess he's probably relieved about that. And yeah, MBL is doing the same, building the transport ship now. He's actually building... Okay, MBL's housed, of course he is. No surprises there. But yeah, this time he built 3 fishing boats, and in game 1 he only built 1, so I guess he adjusted his build a little bit. And yeah, kind of standard stuff, I think. I think, you know, both teams are playing like as you'd expect.
And we'll have the fastest feudal age coming in here for Nikov with Vikings. He has a front dock, which is a little bit surprising for Vikings, and he will spot the landing. He definitely spotted that landing, and Hera will drop off. Like, look at Nikov tracking that transport with the fishing ship. He just wants to know where that landing goes. He sacrifices 1 fishing ship's work capacity to try and track that landing, and you immediately see the yellow ping. So
yeah, I feel like it's fairly obvious what's going on at that point.
MBL only coming with 1 will on the opponent's island. That's a little bit riskier, because the reason why you land with 2 wills is to make sure that you don't lose both of them, or at least even if you lose 1, you will have a backup will. Whereas MBL is going for a bit more ambitious move, I would say, with only 1 will landing. Tries to go to the middle of Hera and Leary's island. Nikov just now rushing up walls, but he's gonna have some time as Hera opens scouts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the scouts will be able to achieve too much, but I guess it gives you a nice economy to go into castle age and go for knights and siege, which will be really awkward for Nikov to deal with if he is also going for water. So I guess like MBL is going more towards Hero's side. Do you feel like that's a good play? Like, I feel like maybe that's a bit of a mistake. Or maybe he can do a lot of damage with this though.
Gal is coming out now for Nikov, and MBL, what is he up to? What is that will even doing?
I honestly have no idea. He's not built a barracks yet, so he can't actually build anything useful.
Yeah, he's making a mill just now. What is MBL up to? Hit a tower, what? A 1 will tower. That feels so awkward, and I can only see one reason of doing this, and that is a fast castle-ish landing. You need a mill to make a market, right? And Saracens need to buy themselves up to castle age here. And maybe the idea is that he wants to wait with the landing, like, he wants to make the opponents believe that he's not landing until he's ready to show it in castle age, although in that case I don't understand the tower.
Yeah, honestly, this doesn't make any sense to me. This is too big brain for me. He's also building galleys for whatever reason. Like, like he's building a tower against Malians who have cheaper buildings anyway. So like, Hero can just move and build a lumber camp somewhere else. Like, that's not the biggest deal.
Nikov's fishing eco is getting pushed here by Leary pretty heavily here. Nikov just going for fletching. And MBL's fishing eco is, I don't know, just sailing across the sea here. Maybe he just misclicked them, because that's kind of kamikaze fishing ships here to me.
I think he's building some galleys, but he was getting attacked by Leary, so he had to run them away. Yeah, this is just a very strange game, honestly.
Yeah, I have absolutely no clue what MB is up to. He's rushing up the market now, so maybe he wants to garrison that tower with the Will, so the Will is kept alive, but there's gonna be a counter tower from Hera. And at this point, we have 3 galleys from MBL, 7 from Nikov, which is a pretty decent count, and Lear is only at 7 fire galleys. And once we have good fire galley numbers, or once we have good galley numbers for Nikov, he should have no trouble with the fire galleys, although he needs to keep them grouped together.
Yeah, so I guess okay, so MBL just clicked up, but like, what does he do in cast stage? That's the real question. Knights, maybe? I honestly don't know. He doesn't have a barracks though. Like,
That is actually rough. He's using the market very heavily. You can see that that was the concept of picking Saracens here. And he definitely forced the tower from Hera, and he's idling 5 Wills inside the tower, so that helps a little bit slow down the pressure that Hera is applying to the opponent's base. Hera just casually milling the opponent's berries on the other side. Still, Nikov starts to have a decent fleet of galleys here. He's up to 9, whereas Lyra is still just at 4, although he still has fire galleys on the field.
yeah, I just think this whole MBL landing thing has been a disaster. If I'm gonna be honest with you, because again, like, he's still building galleys, so he's not actually gonna attack them with he's only now getting Bidax as well. He's gone 2. Honestly, I just think this landing was just like a bit of a troll. Like, he's doing it to kind of make them think he's going for landing, when really he's just going into water.
Indeed, this could be a good diversion with Saracens, because, like, technically, he lost a Will here on the opponent's island, but he also forced a defensive tower from Herod, something that he made, and Saracen galleys on water could definitely have an advantage, so this could still be tricky for Tempo, because Hera is sort of unable to push Nikov, although he was able to force a defensive tower.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, Hero is almost able to click up as well very soon. He's got really nice eco, so like that tower didn't really do anything. Also, like, MBL no longer has anything on the island of the Tempo team, so like they don't really have any options unless they send another transport to do any more damage. Where Hero already has this like really nice foothold on their base, right? You can make their life so difficult. Yeah, also like, oh sorry, you were saying?
Nikov is trying to get a mill up on his berries, but Hera is already there, so I'm not sure how long that's going to last. And the thing is that, as you said, there's a foothold for Hera, which allows him to go for the Knights early on in Castle Age, whereas MBL and Nikov will be doubling water, but it is doubtful how much defense they will have on land.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I kind of have issue with the way MBL played is that he went for galleys, right? And like, when you're getting like that really fast castle timing, like, you kind of want a unit that like really benefits from the kind of improved technology, right? And fire ships is a little bit better for that. But I guess even so, they're still winning back the water, so it's kind of working. It's just a very strange way to play islands. I've never really seen anyone play like this. It's very odd.
Indeed. They are winning water.
Oh, on the left, though, Hero managed to get in and kill 2 villagers, yeah.
That's the kind of gamble that you take when it comes to this type of double water play versus a landing. You risk your opponent just finding a hole at your base and start to kill your stuff, and those are bloodline scouts, so it's not like MBL can just scare them away with a couple of Wills fighting against them. And he's got a Scorpion to defend. Still, MBL only loses 1 Will here, and he might even do some more damage to those scouts.
I mean, he lost 3 Wills. He lost 2 on the berries and then 1 more on the
Oh yeah,
farm.
he lost Wills on the berries indeed, and more important, the archers now force MBL off from gold. We did mention that that gold mine is absolutely disastrous for MBL. He's gonna be okay defending with Scorpions, but as you said, there is the chance for Tempo to push the island of Aftermath, whereas Aftermath is winning water, but does that mean a lot for them right now?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends what Lyri's follow-up is, right? Like, the issue is that Nikov is only just clicked up, and Nikov can't really focus on water fully. Because obviously he's going to have Siege, you know, and Knights in his base, so he's got to deal with that first, and that's going to be really tricky for him to kind of deal with. So I guess it will be MBL on the water, and then it's kind of MBL against Lyri. And MBL's eco is not, it's not terrible, but it's not the cleanest.
And now there is double stable Knights for Hera, and this is the moment where I think they can just play this one just like they would play any other land map. Just come in with the Knights, the Siege, and Nikov is still Feudal Age, just going up to Castle Age. And at this point, Leary can take back water with Portuguese fairly easily if Nikov is off from water, especially because MBL still just has galleys, although with Botkin arrow, but no War Galley upgrade.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Again, like, his eco is like pretty poor, so he can't even afford to get the War Galley upgrade. It's just such a strange way to play islands. Like going for the he's even gonna lose all this. This is such a strange game, honestly. I just can't understand what the kind of thinking behind this play was for Aftermath. Like MBL just sending one villager forward and building only a tower, like, and then going fast castle into galleys and not even getting the War Galley upgrade. Like, I can't help but feeling that's just lack of experience, honestly, or I don't know what that is. It's just very strange. I don't know what you think about that.
Indeed, it was very, very strange. It kind of felt like MBL is trying to do a diversion, because that tower didn't make any sense other than draw the attention of the opponents. However, I feel like they were overthinking this. It was like, maybe if they just go for a straight-up landing, that could have been different, but that landing didn't do anything and their double water play won't work, because now we have Manganos coming in here from Hera. Nikov is struggling with wood, so he will have trouble repairing that town center over there. And now Hera's pushing very heavily. The only town center that Nikov has right now, he's building a second one, just as we speak.
Yeah, this is looking really rough. I guess MBO is trying to redock, and again, okay, he's finally getting the War Galley upgrade. That's good to see. But yeah, the problem is, like, Leary can just focus completely on water. Like, he's 3 town centers, he's Portuguese, he's doing fine. Like, in terms of bill counts, he's fine. And Hero can just completely focus on this forward push. So it's very the game plan for, like, tempo is so much easier to execute than it is for Aftermath, right? Like, MBO has to have this, like, kind of, like, really tricky economy. Like, everything's walled in. Like, he needs to be careful when he ventures out in case he gets raided. And Nikov has to hold this push, right? Whereas, like, tempo are under, like, no pressure at home, really.
And I think the other thing is that Hera's unit, or like resource retention on his units, is crazy good. So he's barely using any units, and that means that he's able to add additional TCs back at home. It's not like he has to spam units in a sustained fight.
Yeah, he sniped both monks with that scout. That's so huge.
Like,
when these knights get in, there's no count space to them now.
And I'm not even sure if that TC stays up. And if that TC goes down, the knights will have an easy way of entering. Nikov is trying his best to repair, but if you look at the galley numbers, MB is at 16, War Galley's leader is at 22, and MBL is at 52 wheels and 63 for Leary. In this one, it very much feels like a very tough situation for Aftermath, and I feel like I've even said an understatement here.
Yeah, again, I'm honestly not sure what MBL was doing with his army. He was just going on around the left-hand side, and now he's taking a terrible fight. Honestly, I just think this is not the best game from Aftermath right now, and I feel like this is not the players playing perhaps to their potential. And we get a pause.
That pause coming in just before the Mangano shots, but we will have a big water fight here. No careening on either side just yet, but the extra HP for Portuguese will obviously help quite a bit. And, like, Nikov is spending a lot of wood just repairing that TC, and obviously that's going to hurt his eco even more. Nice ground attack from him, takes down one Manganol, but still, like, he's using all his wood as Hera goes for the delete trick on the other Manganol just to save that TC, whereas Hera is now booming on free TCs.
Yep. And this is exactly the problem. Like, the game is just so much cleaner for tempo. Sorry, like, it's really hard to play in the position of Nikov, and yeah, he's building a defensive castle, but like, he's already taken so much economic damage that, like, that castle was nice, but like, again, he's using a TC. Like, Hero will probably break through, and it doesn't even relieve the pressure on the entire island. Like, he can still move somewhere else and still continue to do damage.
Exactly. This is like 11 knights. They can just run towards MBL's base. MBL will trade navies here with Leary. Saracen faster firing rate versus higher HP for the War Galleys. Should be slightly favoring Saracens, but now there is ballistics for Leary, so it is for MBL. Leary has some idle fleet at the back of MBL's base, but at this point, it's the eco numbers to look at, 140 versus 111.
Yeah, Leary's got a great economy, whereas he's up 20 bills on MBL. So I think he'll be happy to trade off and try and get to Imp. Although that was a really nice fight for MBL, so like maybe we shouldn't count out MBL on the water at least. It's just the problem now is that, as you were saying, like Hero's booming on 4 town centers, and he's also looking like he's close to going Imp. Whereas obviously like Nikov is, he's got all of his economy by that one castle, and that's about it. Oh my! If you look at his POV, he has like no resources. Like he's really struggling.
Yeah, exactly.
Surprisingly,
Nikov has spent an awful lot of wood repairing that town center. So now we have a big water fight here, but at this point, Lear has 88 vills and 63 only for MBL. So MBL will just get outproduced on water really badly, and we did talk about the Knights potentially hitting MBL's base here, which could be the final nail in the coffin, because unless there is some very good quick walls, which apparently happen, those Knights could break into MBL's base, and that would mean the end of Aftermath.
Yep. Yeah, I think, if those Knights get in, this is a real trouble for MBL. And again, now Leary's snowballing in the water. Yeah, I'm struggling to see where Aftermath are going to come back in this game, honestly.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. Hero's gonna go for a forward castle, and with the Imperial Age advantage that he has, he can just go for Trebs. And indeed, Aftermath calls it. Tempo soaring past their former teammates in a very convincing fashion, and they did really look like the team that was the favored one in this tournament. Ever since the beginning of the tournament, it was the question of will Tempo be the most lethal duo, the only team that has really 2 top 5 players on their roster currently, and they are apparently the team to beat here, and they go into the grand finals.
Yeah, they played excellently all series. I think, clearly they have really good team synergy. They had some really good drafting as well. They had some really nice civs for the maps. And yeah, they looked pretty comfortable today, honestly. Other than that one game that dropped, it felt like... and Arabia was really close as well. To be fair to Aftermath, they took Arabia really close. It just felt like on some of their home maps, Aftermath just felt like they weren't prepared enough to really take it to the Tempo guys.
Exactly, and if we look back at the draft for a brief moment, it is worth pointing out that I think that Tempo also won partially by the draft. Because when we looked at their starting drafts, Tempo draft seems just much more natural, like having civs like Franks for Arabia or Mongols for Coast Mountain, Portuguese for Team Islands maybe, but civs like Ethiopians, for example, for Natsukotra as well. Whereas on the other side, we saw some civs like, for example, Aztecs, which had a good game plan behind them, but they weren't able to finish it. But for example, the Indians plus Kumans combination of Coast Mountain, which was massively inferior compared to what Tempo was able to field.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point as well, because it's like they picked Indians as well for Coast to Mountain, but they also gave the opponents Celts, right? And then they picked 2 civs that are literally hard countered by Celts. So it just kind of feels like in the draft, in the games, like in the strategy, it feels like Tempo were just kind of a step ahead.
Exactly. We know exactly that the only way that AM would actually win this set is if they can really get some surprising strategies in, and really they have to win with game plan and not necessarily execution, because execution, you just won't beat Tempo with their execution. They probably have the best in the game, so you have to come up with some very, very good game plan. You have to have an insanely good draft behind you, but it looks like Leary and Hera had a slightly better draft than, if not way better draft than AM, and also the execution and overall the way that they used their civs on the maps that they were given was also very, very good, I believe.